Chapter 41. Eliminating Tianya and Yikao. Lin Yu held his sword horizontally before him, face grave. His spirit power was only half of what it had been at his peak. Even at full strength, he would be cautious facing a single high-level spirit elder, let alone two. The spirit rings of the two men before him were slightly lacking, but their spirit power was real. Tianya, spirit, broken blade, level 38, battle spirit elder. Yikao, spirit, goose, level 37, battle spirit elder. The names pulled at a dusty corner of Lin Yu's memory. Of course, these were the pair. Along with Boulay, whom the Shrek Seven Devils had first met in Suotuo City, they formed a notorious trio. Flower thieves, hunted wherever they went. Fearing capture and execution by Spirit Hall or the two great empires as a public example, they had been wandering the Douluo Continent. Boulay's recent advancement to Spirit Elder had brought them to the Sunset Forest to scout spirit beasts. To avoid temptation and the attention of Heaven Dew City's nobles, they'd taken a detour from the west, more than half a month's journey. On their very first day in the forest, they ran into Lin Yu and Serpent Dragon. Serpent Dragon had intended to test Lin Yu and had spared the two men for the moment. But Tianya and Yikao, besides being lechers, were greedy. With a spirit bone right in front of them, they lost their heads and ignored Serpent Dragon standing beside Lin Yu. When it became clear Lin Yu would not hand over the Crystal Bear's spirit bone, Tianya brandished his broken blade. His spirit ring flared and he dashed for Lin Yu. Lin Yu did not panic. Without invoking any spirit ability, his Taiyi Xuanmen sword technique flowed like a dragon rising from water and moved with the lithe swiftness of a cat. His hands separated yin and yang, his posture contained the 8 trigrams, his steps traced the 9 palaces. Inwardly his chi harmonized, outwardly his form aligned. His sword intent stirred faintly, and he suppressed Tianya, who had already used his first 2 spirit abilities, without expending much spirit power. Tianya was in a desperate position. One misstep and a single strike could cut him down. With a clang, Lin Yu's longsword caught Tianya's broken blade. The frosty blade vibrated. The shock numbed Tianya's palm, and he involuntarily let go. As the broken blade fell, Lin Yu's sword struck mercilessly toward Tianya's throat. Terrified, Tianya's voice rang out. "Old goose, save me. Brat, how dare you harm Tianya? I won't forgive you." Yikao had been preparing to act as soon as Tianya faltered, but he'd been holding back until Tianya used his 3rd spirit ability. Seeing Tianya on the verge of death, Yikao finally unleashed his power. Like the Heaven Dew Empire's swan spirit, a pair of snow-white wings materialized and dozens of razor-like feathers shot at Lin Yu. Lin Yu, on the verge of finishing Tianya, anticipated the 2-against-1 threat. His purple spirit ring flashed, and with his 2nd spirit ability paired Luan, 2 identical figures of himself, each holding a Qingxuang sword, appeared before Yikao. The flying feathers were intercepted and deflected by the 2 mirrored Lin Yus, whose exquisite swordplay cut them down. The clones then pressed the attack on Yikao. Seizing the opening, Lin Yu performed his evolved horizontal sword move, born from Uncle Zhuang's traversing 8 directions. The Qingxuang blade, cold as frost and snow, combined momentum and intent and drove straight through Tianya's neck. Though called a pierce, the horizontal sword strike severed Tianya's head outright, a brutal testament to its overwhelming force. Yikao, weaker than Tianya, was soon crushed beneath the twin swords of Lin Yu's clones. When the fight ended, Lin Yu's face had gone a little pale. After 3 consecutive bouts, the Crystal Bear and then Tianya and Yikao, his spirit power was down to less than 10%. He instinctively looked to Serpent Dragon. Serpent Dragon smiled, a hint of satisfaction in his eyes. "That's enough for today. Recover your spirit power first." Relief washed through Lin Yu. He put a dragon ji leaf he had brought from his family's medicinal garden into his mouth and sat to restore himself. Less than half an hour later, his spirit power had returned to full. He opened his eyes to see Serpent Dragon setting up a small fire and preparing a meat-bone rabbit, skinning and removing sinew with practiced hands. Seeing Lin Yu fully recovered, Serpent Dragon casually tossed the prepared rabbit to him. "Kid, it's your turn now. This old man isn't any good at this," he said. Lin Yu took the soft-boned rabbit and applied the seasonings he'd brought, brushed it with honey from a jade snow bee, and leisurely roasted it. A 400-year-old soft-bones rabbit weighed dozens of kilograms, more than enough for both of them. When they had finished and only bones remained, Serpent Dragon asked calmly, "Kid, how did it feel, killing someone today?" Lin Yu frowned. No different than killing a spirit beast. Besides, those two deserved it. They let greed and lust blind them. That way of dying was actually lenient. He knew who the Boulay trio were. On the Douluo Continent, strength dictated respect. They never dared touch noble girls or provoke powerful spirit masters, so they preyed on commoner women. Under the law, even scoundrels who were still spirit masters received some protection. At best, they might be imprisoned. Lin Yu's answer surprised Serpent Dragon slightly. "It's good you think that way," Serpent Dragon said, "but remember, killing's purpose is to stop harm, not to let you lose yourself in slaughter." "Understood, Elder Serpent Dragon," Lin Yu replied. Though not Lin Yu's master, Serpent Dragon felt the need to say more. Lin Yu was the only person the young miss could truly rely on. He watched the moonlight over the clearing and wondered inwardly why Tang Chen hadn't executed such men. Why keep such scoundrels around? Chapter 42, The Quick Way to Get Rich, The Final Trial. Several days passed, and Lin Yu had been deep in the Sunset Forest, trailing Serpent Dragon and challenging all kinds of spirit beasts. After Lin Yu's 2 incarnations vanished, 3 uses of his first spirit ability, Red Owl Light, struck at once, hitting the head of a black and white tiger whose body shimmered faintly with starlight. The blast left a hole the size of 2 fists in its skull. Including Lin Yu's main body, the 2 clones had all released the ability simultaneously, which cost a great deal of energy. Fortunately, the power was enough. The 3 Red Owl Lights stacked together, though the clones' attacks were only about 80% as strong, and finally brought down the 3,000-year-old Starlight Nether Tiger. Lin Yu stared at the massive corpse, his eyes brightening. In his previous life, creatures like this had been extremely valuable. From bone to flesh to fur, nothing was worthless. There was even a particular organ that was priceless. For his father's sake, Lin Yu was determined to take it back. Serpent Dragon watched the scene and felt a little sorry for him. He couldn't understand why Lin Jian never gave Lin Yu pocket money. In fact, Lin Jian didn't give him any, and he didn't have much cash himself. It wasn't that Lin Jian was henpecked. Whenever he asked Yu for money, there were always awkward expenses he couldn't explain. The high society world was messy, and Yu would sometimes melt into tears and refuse to listen. Lin Yu, on the other hand, rarely went short. His monthly allowance and expenses were adequate. Still, the Starlight Nether Tiger wasn't something money alone could buy, so, under Lin Yu's pleading look, Serpent Dragon reluctantly stored the tiger's corpse in his spirit storage artifact. Not long after, Lin Yu recovered all his spirit power and saw Serpent Dragon walking toward him with a smile. Sensing something was up, Lin Yu jumped to his feet. "Elder Serpent Dragon, do you have instructions for me?" He wasn't being overly cautious, he just felt Serpent Dragon's approach might mean trouble. "Xiao Wu, I've watched you for 3 years and never realized how tight your finances are. I have a way that can quickly make you rich. Want to hear it?" Lin Yu cocked his head, puzzled. He hadn't said he was short on cash. His young lord sister had secretly slipped him over 100,000 gold coins before this trial, after all. But you can never have too much money. He nodded without hesitation. Serpent Dragon didn't speak more. He scooped Lin Yu up and flew off in a certain direction. In less than an hour they landed, and Serpent Dragon pointed to a mountain not far from a major trade route. "Do you see that mountain?" Then Serpent Dragon explained the final task he had brought Lin Yu to undertake. Lin Yu had to take on a bandit stronghold entrenched on this vital route to Heavendo City. The place housed over 200 bandits. Serpent Dragon had scouted it beforehand. A level 37 Spirit Elder served as chief, backed by 2 Spirit Grandmasters and 7 or 8 Spirit Masters. The rest were Spirit Scholars and common thugs, over 200 people in total. Lin Yu's mission was simple: wipe out the bandits. How he did it was his choice. "This stronghold's been here 10 years, Serpent Dragon said. "They guard the highway, so they must have accumulated wealth. This is the final method I'll give you to get rich, one I've never told anyone. How's that for a deal?" Lin Yu managed a tight smile and had to admit it was an excellent plan. After asking Serpent Dragon about the terrain, who had already scouted everything, he charged straight for the mountain. It wasn't recklessness. The flat-topped mountain made stealth impossible in daylight. Since he couldn't sneak in, he had to go up the front. Just before he reached the gate, Lin Yu activated his spirit possession. With a flap of wings, his figure blurred like a flash of light, and he was suddenly in front of a gate guard, taking him down in an instant. The thug was terrified of death. When he saw the spirit rings on Lin Yu, his voice shook. "Sir, spare my life. Go find your boss and tell him the time has come for this stronghold, built on plundering the common people, to die. Hurry up and come to the gate to meet your end," Lin Yu said, then tossed the man aside. A coldness flashed through his pale red eyes, a stark contrast to the obedient front he'd shown Serpent Dragon earlier. The stronghold was not huge. Lin Yu cleared the gate area of thugs and even a spirit master, then calmly waited for the chief to arrive. Soon, a crowd poured up to the gate, led by a scarred, bare-chested man wielding a long saber. This was Fang Biao, the stronghold's chief, a level 37 spirit elder whose spirit was clearly bound to his saber. When Fang Biao saw Lin Yu, his face fell. He cupped his hands and bowed deeply. "I'm Fang Biao, chief of this place. I don't know why we have offended young master, but we will apologize and offer full compensation." Not all mountain bandits are fools. The ones who weren't would never have survived 10 years on a major route without some cunning. Seeing how cleanly Lin Yu had dropped his gate guards, and judging from his bearing and clothes, Fang Biao suspected Lin Yu's background was not ordinary. He bowed and prepared to make amends. "That won't be necessary," Lin Yu said calmly. "I came to send all of you to your deaths. No apology is needed. Once I kill you, everything in this stronghold will be mine." Fang Biao's expression hardened. There was no room for negotiation. If Lin Yu's authority was high, they'd have to abandon the stronghold they'd held for over a decade. "Brothers, follow me. Slaughter him." Under Fang Biao's shout, the bandits surged forward. Lin Yu's eyes turned icy. He casually cut down a thug, and a battle of blood and steel erupted. Chapter 43. Killing and Arson Bring Wealth. Returning to Heaven. Due after successful training. Murder and arson bring wealth and honor. Through trials and tribulations, one can rise above adversity. Being an old hand, Fang Biao didn't show off. For safety's sake, he ordered his more than 200 subordinates to rush forward at once. If a master suddenly appeared to protect Lin Yu and cut down his men, he would turn and run without hesitation. From the start, he'd suspected Lin Yu had powerful backing, perhaps a scion of one of the great families. And any true master who served such a person was far beyond the reach of a mere spirit elder like himself. It was better to let his underlings buy him time. If he could escape, the bandit camp could always be rebuilt. Holding his plain long saber, Fang Biao stood steady like an old hound and watched as his men were cut down. There were simply too many of them. Lin Yu, trying to conserve spirit power for this training, moved with cold efficiency. The shadow of the Qingshuang sword in his hand flashed like a startled swan, changing with every stroke. Nearly every swing claimed a life. After only 20 or so fell, the rest, most lacking any real spirit power, began to panic and retreat. As they fled, Lin Yu stopped concealing himself and released his spirit. The phantom of the giant winged emerald demon bird appeared behind him, and cyan wings erupted from his back. 2 spirit rings, a yellow and a purple, blinked into being. He activated his second spirit ability, Paired Luan, conjuring 2 clones that each possessed 80% of his strength. One clone pursued the fleeing ruffians. The other took on the dozen or so spirit masters and spirit grandmasters. The surge in spirit power and mental force forced Lin Yu to finish the fight quickly. Fang Biao sensed the shift. Years in the spirit master world had taught him to read danger, and when he glimpsed the glow of Lin Yu's second spirit ring, an unmistakable 1,000-year ring, terror froze him. Without hesitation, he turned to flee. Had he broken at the start, maybe Lin Yu couldn't have stopped him. Now it was too late. While his clones mopped up the bandits, Lin Yu flapped his wings. Sword intent condensed onto the Qingshuang sword and fused with his spirit power, generating a burst of sword chi that cut off Fang Biao's escape. Fang Biao had to use his long saber and his own saber spirit to defend. He managed to parry, but he now understood Lin Yu meant to kill him. His expression soured. "Brat, you're asking for death," he snarled. White, yellow, and purple spirit rings flared around Fang Biao as he charged, saber raised. Unlike Lin Yu, whose previous life had trained under a prestigious sect, Fang Biao had scraped by in the spirit master world, mastering only a few routine saber techniques. Those moves were serviceable, but brittle against Lin Yu's unified form and intent. In just a few deliberate movements, Lin Yu put Fang Biao in mortal danger. Panic took him. "Die!" Fang Biao roared, slashing with all his force. White light rushed along his saber, but the attack was slow and telegraphed against an opponent who possessed both strength and agility. Lin Yu stepped aside with a simple shift, then executed a horizontal sweep and brought the Qing sword down in a cutting arc aimed straight for Fang Biao's head. Fang Biao couldn't evade in time. The sword light flashed. The blade passed clean through his neck without splattering the blade. Then his head separated from his body and blood spurted. Serpent Dragon, lurking in the shadows, winced. "This kid, why is he always so brutal? Always going straight for the head," Serpent Dragon muttered. While Serpent Dragon complained, Lin Yu moved among the corpses and spotted a bracelet-style storage spirit tool on Fang Biao's body, faintly humming with leftover spirit power. He slipped it free, fed a sliver of spirit into it, and found half of the 6 cubic meter space filled with glittering gold coins. The rest held valuables. Lin Yu estimated the haul, just from Fang Biao, at 300,000 gold coins. If he added the wealth of the spirit grandmasters and spirit masters, the bandit camp was extraordinarily rich. But Lin Yu's eyes were caught by an envelope with an unbroken wax seal. No name. Curiosity pushed him to pry it open. The letter inside was packed with writing, and with it a small, pleased smile spread across his face. "Aha! I was wondering how to create trouble for you, and you handed me the knife." The letter was a direct pressure note from Prince Shui Xing's manor. Since Qian Renxue's incarnation, Shui Qing had grown in Emperor Shui Ye's esteem, and Shui Xing had sided with Shui Beng, opposing Qian Renxue both openly and covertly. Shui Xing controlled the military authority of the Heaven Du Empire. He wasn't someone you could topple with a simple assassination. Killing him would only raise suspicion at the court. To bring him down, concrete evidence of collusion was needed. The letter demanded that Fang Biao hand over 80% of the tribute from his raids if he wanted to continue operating. It had only just reached Fang Biao when Lin Yu struck. If Lin Yu had been a moment slower, Fang Biao's cautious nature meant the envelope might never have left his hands. Military collusion with bandits might not topple Shixing outright, but it would certainly cause him immense trouble. Pocketing the letter, Lin Yu finished clearing the mountain. He looted the camp thoroughly, filling the storage bracelet with gold, silver, and jewels until it bulged. He hefted it and couldn't help but laugh softly. "Killing and arson bring wealth. The ancients weren't wrong," he said wryly. "All right, you're done here. Hurry up and leave. What are you standing around for?" Serpent Dragon's impatient voice cut in. Lin Yu closed the storage bracelet and led the way out of the hidden mountain, heading back toward Heaven Do City. Chapter 44. Little Brother Yu, I need you to help me cultivate. The moon hung high over Heaven Do Imperial City. In the prince's residence of Shui Qinghe, one of the Heaven Do Empire's last 2 princes, there was a secluded chamber built with special materials to isolate spirit power. Across from Lin Yu sat a charming young woman with waist-length golden hair, a gentle smile on her face as she patiently listened to him recap what he had gained on his recent excursion. When Lin Yu mentioned having eliminated Tianya and Yikao, 2 high-rank spirit elders, and the last assassination the Serpent Dragon had planned against Fang Biao, who had been colluding with Shui Xing, Qian Renxue's smooth, pale hands, which had been resting on her lap, subconsciously clenched. Lin Yu took from his sleeve the letter he had obtained earlier, the recruitment letter Shui Xing had sent to Fang Biao's bandit gang, and handed it to her. Qian Renxue's brows knit as she scanned it, then she snorted softly. "This Shui Xing, a prince of the Heaven Do Empire, actually sells himself for money. If this is true, I could use it to expose him and give him a proper warning." She really was Spirit Hall's little princess, raised and educated by Qian Douluo to be clever and resourceful. Faced with Xuexing's collusion with bandits and the use of his troops, her instinct was to strike. She tossed her golden hair, and a touch of disappointment clouded her starry eyes. It's a pity this probably won't have much effect. After all, Emperor Shuiye protects his younger brother. Seeing Qian Renshue's mild disappointment, Lin Yu felt compelled to soothe her. Sister, you don't have to rush. Xuexing isn't like the previous two princes. His influence is second only to Emperor Shuiye. Taking someone like him down will have to be done slowly, chipping away at his power piece by piece. Qian Renxue nodded, then reached out and lightly pinched Lin Yu's cheek. A soft smile curved her mouth. All right, I understand. Your older sister will handle it, so you don't need to worry. Understood, older sister. After that, Qian Renxue seated herself cross-legged on the bed to begin cultivation. Lin Yu hesitated inwardly. She had listened to his whole tale and even teased him a little, but he knew she was utterly exhausted. By day, she had to keep up a gracious front for the royal family. She spent energy performing for the old fox Ning Fengji. At night, she followed Shuiye to study state affairs and returned to her palace late. Even then, she had no time to rest. She had to cultivate diligently to avoid falling behind in rank. The golden-haired girl before him was stubborn and heartbreakingly pitiable, all because of an oath she had made rashly to that woman. Lin Yu's gaze lingered on Qian Renshue's delicate form until she noticed him staring. The color rose faintly in her cheeks, shy like any young lady, and she opened her beautiful eyes, tilting her head. Xiao Yu, is something wrong? He had already decided not to hide it. Besides, he'd already attached 2 spirit rings without experiencing any spirit conflict. And if things went truly wrong, he still had his master sister in the god realm to rely on. In terms of god rank, that woman was 1 level below his master sister. She wouldn't dare to touch him if that woman intended to keep her position. Lin Yu spread his left hand. A pearly white scroll unfurled, revealing countless mountains and foliage, and a vibrant life force poured from it. A look of astonishment flashed across Qian Renshue's phoenix-like eyes. A twin spirit? Lin Yu smiled wryly and nodded. Yes, it's not that I deliberately hid it from you, sister. He explained why he had concealed his spirit before, and why he was revealing it now. All his worries, and the fact that he could no longer bear to watch Qian Renxue wear herself down. She listened in silence, and those usually imperious eyes looked at him like calm water. So that's why, she whispered. You see how little rest I get. I couldn't bear it either. So you want to use this spirit to help me? She asked. Lin Yu nodded and released the 2 spirit rings contained in the wood spirit scroll. When the 2 purple rings appeared, a flash of surprise crossed Qian Renshue's eyes. She had planned to beg Bo, that woman, to teach her how to cultivate twin spirits, but she had not expected her younger brother to be free of spirit conflict. Though she didn't fully understand, relief and joy welled in her chest. Her soft hand stroked Lin Yu's cheek, starlight shimmering in her golden eyes. My dear little brother, tell me now, exactly how can this spirit help your older sister? Lin Yu felt the warmth of her hand and chuckled. The second purple ring glowed, and he said, Second spirit ability, Qi through 8 meridians. At once a white beam of light entered Qian Renshue's body, and another into Lin Yu's. Sister, my second spirit ability, Qi through 8 meridians, can ignore differences in spirit quality and double cultivation speed. Even Qian Renxue, Spirit Hall's noble princess, was stunned. She pinched Lin Yu's cheek without thinking. Does it hurt? Lin Yu didn't answer, but the plaintive look in his slightly reddened eyes convinced her this was real. Without hesitating, Qian Renxue sat cross-legged opposite him and began to meditate. A moment later, moved beyond words, she simply embraced him. For the first time, Lin Yu truly felt the softness of his sister's figure and the delicate warmth of her chest, the subtle, elegant scent that clung to her. She held him for a while, and 2 clear tears slipped from her moist eyes. Her cherry lips parted. Thank you, little brother Yu. From now on, your older sister needs you to help her cultivate. From that moment, Lin Yu became the only non-blood person truly close to her heart. Unlike Bibi Dong's indifference or Qian Dalu's sternness, Lin Yu gave her the care her fragile heart craved. A light pierced the darkness in her soul, dissipating the shadows and leaving only a harmless, lingering complexity. Far away, tens of thousands of miles, in the silent, deserted hall of worship, the elegant angel statue suddenly brightened. Qian Daoliu, a little disheveled from rushing over, looked toward Heaven Do City and murmured, "Is that you, Cher?" Chapter 45, Duguyan beats Yu Tianheng, the tyrant dragon sect bullies the weak. At dawn, Lin Yu felt utterly exhausted and couldn't help but let out a big yawn. Qian Renxue, who was about to change back into Shui Qinghe, snickered softly. "What, can't even last the first day?" Lin Yu shook his head emphatically. "Of course not. I just got back late last night and I'm a bit tired." Qian Renxue's golden phoenix eyes swept over him for a moment. "Fine, then be sure to come back early tonight." She ruffled his short, soft hair, transformed into Shui Qinghe, and left the mansion. With her gone, Lin Yu wasn't in any particular hurry. It was the holidays at Heaven Do Royal Academy. Students could take leave for years and only return for graduation if they wanted, so there was no pressure to hurry. After a quick meal, he settled into meditation to recover his spirit power. This recovery took a little longer than usual, a full half-hour to restore his reserves, and, to his delight, he broke through a level in the process. At just over 9 years old, he was now a 28-level Spirit Grandmaster. He expected a small bottleneck when he reached Spirit Elder, but he was confident he could reach it before he turned 10. The feeling after a breakthrough was exhilarating. After changing his clothes, Lin Yu left Shui Qinghe's mansion and flew straight toward Heaven Do Royal Academy. It would have taken 2 hours by carriage, but as a Spirit Master, he covered the distance quickly. He arrived at the academy gates only to find a surprising scene. Duguyan was beating Yu Tianheng. Lin Yu stared, stunned. He hadn't seen any of this happen. Yu Tianheng might be a few months older than him, but his strength was poor, only 1 spirit ring and still some way from a second. How could he stand against Duguyan, who had consumed the Narcissus Jade muscle bone and used the Wood Spirit Scroll to enhance herself? Her strange, domineering, poisonous spirit power was absolutely torturing him. With a thud, Yu Tianheng was kicked out through the main gate by Duguyan. Controlling her toxins, her hair gone back to raven black, she stood hands on hips and glared down at him with an oddly fierce, almost cute expression. "Twin Star, my foot," she spat. "You can't even beat me, but you want to chase after me and have your grandfather be my backer? Your plan's obvious, but your strength is a joke. Where do you get the nerve?" A crowd of students and a few teachers surrounded her, some of Lin Yu's classmates among them, but many of them were nursing bruised, swollen faces. Lin Yu hadn't known that while he'd been away, Yu Tianheng had been throwing himself at Duguyan relentlessly. The Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect prided itself on an aggressive tradition when it came to courting. Fierce and presumptuous pursuit ran in the family. For most girls, that might have worked. Duguyan, however, had seen through Yu Tianheng's motives from the start and refused him. After being rejected publicly in front of classmates, Yu Tianheng was humiliated and angered. Unable to contain himself, he lashed out and vented on those around him. As the grandson of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect Master, arrogance came naturally to him. He thought he could rough up a few nobles without consequence, and who would dare report him to the sect? But he hadn't expected Duguyan to fly into a rage. From the teaching building down to the school gate, nearly 2,000 meters, Yu Tianheng, who had always relied on the Tyrant Dragon's prestige, was beaten all the way down the slope. He lost every shred of dignity. There was no majesty left, only a hurt, cowering boy. Duguyan was about to kick him again when a middle-aged man stepped forward and shouted, "Stop!" 7 spirit rings flared, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 3 black, revealing him as a spirit saint. His spirit was the same as Yu Tianheng's, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon. Seeing that, Meng Shenji of the Academy's Education Committee, who had been watching from the sidelines, hurried forward too. "I was wondering who it was," Meng said with a bow. "So it's young Lord Yu Xiaoqiang. My apologies for not greeting you sooner." The ordinary-looking man was indeed Yu Xiaoqiang, the older brother of Grandmaster Yu Xiaogang and the young lord of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect. He fixed a hard stare on Duguyan, then turned to Meng Shenji. "Old man Meng, my son was beaten like this. You must give me an explanation, or don't blame our Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect if we act impolitely." The Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon people were used to bullying others. Even though Meng Shenji's strength far exceeded his, and he was of the same generation as Yu Xiaogang, Yu Xiaochang refused to show him respect, repeating the insulting old man. Meng, who dealt with many hotheads in his long life, was unflustered. Student Dugu Yan started this matter. Why don't you have her call her grandfather Dugu Bo and apologize to your young lord? Dugu Yan's emerald eyes flashed and she smiled coolly. Fine, my grandfather loves sparring with juniors. This isn't over, Yu Xiaochang snapped. Hot-headed as he wasn't foolish. He understood perfectly well the implications of Dugu Yan's remark. If she forced Dugu Bo to step in, the situation would be different. Yu Xiaochang had been hoping to use Yu Tianheng's pursuit of Dugu Yan to gain favor and influence, but provoking Dugu Bo was a line even he and his father, Yu Yuanzhen, would think twice about crossing. Begrudgingly, he gathered Yu Tianheng and left. Lin Yu watched them go and couldn't help but smile. Everything, for now, had been settled. Chapter 46. The Academy acquired early, the genius about to arrive. Because of Lin Yu's interference, Yu Tianheng didn't just fail, he provoked Dugu Yan's wrath. After being soundly beaten by Dugu Yan in front of nearly a quarter of Heaven Do Royal Academy's students and faculty, Yu Tianheng had no face left to remain there and was forced to drop out. A month after leaving, when his wounds had mostly healed, Yu Tianheng walked straight into Blue Tyrant Academy, the school tied to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect. Although Liu Erlong currently served as dean, the academy itself was an asset of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect. Blue Tyrant Academy was the only academy located inside Heaven Do City. Even Heaven Do Royal Academy lay beyond the city walls. For Lin Yu, it was baffling how Liu Erlong could hand the whole academy to Flender 10 years later. Even ignoring the academy's operating value, the land alone inside Heaven Do City was worth an astronomical sum. Lin Yu narrowed his eyes. Some things simply didn't add up. In the original timeline, the proud Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect had produced almost no notable figures besides Yu Tianheng, Yu Tianxin, and the couple Yu Xiaogong and Liu Erlong. That made the later transfer all the more puzzling. He rubbed his head. I'm not cut out for this kind of thinking, he muttered. What's the matter, Xiao Yu? You look distracted. A soft, gentle voice sounded behind him. Qian Renxue appeared, her golden hair falling to her waist, an ethereal poise about her. She pressed her smooth, jade-like fingers to his temples, massaging them. Sister, you're back? Qian Renxue nodded and began to recount the day's events. Over the past 3 years, they'd grown accustomed to telling each other everything that happened whenever they returned. It helped catch anything missed. When she finished, the tension on Lin Yu's brow eased and he smiled. Congratulations in advance, sister. I didn't expect Shuye to hand over the authority of Heaven Do Royal Academy to you so quickly. Qian Renxue withdrew her hand and with a fond smile in her golden eyes, smoothed his hair. You can't call it sudden. Heaven Do Royal Academy has never been of crucial importance to the royal family. Besides, Shui Qingye asked for this. How could Emperor Shuye refuse? She had indeed taken control of the Academy's authority much earlier than in the original timeline. Beyond the value of a few Spirit Douluo-ranked education committee members who might be worth recruiting, she planned to use Heaven Do Royal Academy as a springboard 10 years from now, a way to punish that woman. Whether she would succeed, she hadn't dwelled on. Her confidence rested entirely on the person beside her, Lin Yu. She trusted the brother she knew far more than the sly figure she despised. These plans, however, were still distant. She did not burden Lin Yu with them. After recounting the day and checking for omissions, Qian Renshue's lips curved into a slightly dominant smile as she looked at Lin Yu. It's getting late, little brother. I'm ready, sister, he replied. They spent the night in silence. The next morning, Qian Renxue stretched lazily in front of him, every graceful line on display. The sight startled the not-yet 10-year-old Lin Yu. His face flushed, and his nose suddenly felt strange. What's wrong, Xiao Yu? You look pale. She cocked her head, confused. Lin Yu was secretly grateful she didn't understand romantic awkwardness, or he'd be in real trouble. He used a bit of spirit power to staunch the tiny, embarrassing nosebleed, forced a smile and said, I'm fine, sister. The secret room feels a bit stuffy. I'll go get some fresh air. He bolted for the exit. Qian Renxue watched him go, then stepped up to a full-length mirror. Admiring her reflection, a charming smile curved her lips. When she emerged and took on the guise of Shui Qinghe, Lin Yu withdrew the 2 clones he'd been using to mislead others. Now that the prince had some authority, it made sense to use it. They headed to Heaven Do Royal Academy together. At the academy gate, they ran into the 3 members of the education committee, Spirit Douluo ranked, which surprised them both. Shui Qinghe's status had indeed risen, but he wasn't the crown prince. Why would 3 Spirit Douluo-level figures come to meet him? Lin Yu trailed behind Shui Qinghe as the prince bowed with practiced courtesy. Qinghe greets the 3 chiefs. The 3 committee members returned the salute swiftly. "We bow to your highness, the second prince." After the exchange, Shui Qinghe fell back on the only lesson he consistently remembered from Ning Fengji, the art of flattery. What important business brings the 3 chiefs here? Has a titled Douluo come to our academy? Meng Shenji shook his head. Not that. We came to welcome old friends from Divine Wind Academy. Besides, we wanted to see with our own eyes this so-called once-in-a-century genius from Divine Wind Academy. At the words once-in-a-century and Divine Wind Academy, Lin Yu's heart stuttered. A single name flashed through his mind. Could it really be him? For Meng Shenji and the 2 other members of Heaven Do Royal Academy's Education Committee to come out to personally greet someone at the school gate, the newcomer's identity needed no explanation. Whoever had inspired this level of respect was either on par with Meng Shenji in strength, or perhaps even higher. Soon after Lin Yu and Shui Qinghe entered the academy, a white-haired elder in a green robe arrived with a dozen or so young men and women in matching colors. A finely crafted green emblem led the group. If one looked closely, the characters Divine Wind could be made out. They were from Divine Wind Academy. The moment the elder appeared, Meng Shenji stepped forward to pay his respects. "Brother Feng, I've long admired you. It's an honor you would visit our academy. His Majesty has ordered that we receive you and your guests with the utmost courtesy." The elder, Feng family head, Dean of Divine Wind Academy, possessed the legacy spirit of the Storm Devil Wolf. He was an 87th level high-rank spirit Douluo, a rare cultivation standing in the Heaven Do Empire. Nearly 20 years Meng Shenji's senior, he had little hope of ever becoming a titled Douluo, yet his strength still impressed Emperor Suiye. That was why the exchange competition between Divine Wind Academy and Heaven Do Royal Academy had been arranged, to curry favor with him. Seeing Meng Shenji's respectful greeting, family head Feng dropped any airs. The 2 sides chatted amicably for a while, their conversation betraying no ulterior motive. Nearby, Lin Yu and Shui Qinghe happened upon Qin Ming, who had just finished a class. Recalling Lin Yu's recommendation and Qin Ming's talent, Shui Qinghe moved to recruit him. But Qin Ming's response was the last thing they expected. Before Shui Qinghe could finish a single flattering phrase, an unmistakable look of disgust crossed Qin Ming's face. "No thanks," he said coldly. "Nobles in the Spirit Hall are the same breed. Bad news. I teach here, but I'm not one of you. Don't bother me. I have better things to do than waste my time with you." He turned and left in a hurry, but not before noting Lin Yu, who'd brought Shui Qinghe with him. Qin Ming's attitude was Texprec Academy, proud, rebellious, born from Flender and Zhao Wuji's discipline, and contemptuous of nobles and Spirit Hall influence. Lin Yu was puzzled. If Qin Ming despised nobles so openly, why was he teaching at Heaven Do Royal Academy? Blue Tyrant Academy was right in Heaven Do City. Then Lin Yu remembered. In the original timeline, a Heaven Do level teacher, an actual Spirit Emperor, could be paid 3,000 gold coins a month. A Spirit Ancestor, though less lofty than a Spirit Emperor, reportedly earned 600 gold a month. And Heaven Do Royal Academy covered living expenses for its teachers. Making money wasn't shameful. It made sense. Shui Qinghe interrupted Lin Yu's muttering. Although her golden phoenix eyes were hidden by her legacy spirit bone, Lin Yu knew her well enough to feel the dangerous qi in them when she was displeased. He offered an awkward smile. "Your Highness, if he's going to be like that, then forget it. His potential is decent, upper middle tier, but whether he'll ever become a titled Douluo is anyone's guess." With no one else around, and Lin Yu the only one beside her, Shui Qinghe gave a soft snort. He seems to bear a grudge against me, against my family. Didn't you check him properly before recommending him? Guilt flushed Lin Yu's youthful, handsome features. Yes, I was careless, Your Highness. It's all right. It's not your fault. Besides, he's only a spirit ancestor. I wouldn't have taken him anyway. Relieved by Lin Yu's contrition, Shui Qing'e relaxed and even stroked his short hair in passing. The moment seemed almost affectionate. Then she changed course deliberately. Even so, he openly defied the authority of the Shui clan today. He should be punished. Lin Yu had no illusions. The Academy's power was effectively in Shui Qinghe's hands. Aside from the 3 elderly committee members, she called most of the shots. Qin Ming, merely a talented teacher with no standing, had no avenue for complaint. Lin Yu didn't hesitate. If Qin Ming had already snubbed the young lord's sister, then he deserved whatever consequences followed. You're right. His temperament is poor, and he could mislead his disciples. It would be best if he left as soon as possible. Having disposed of Qin Ming in his mind, Lin Yu and Shui Qinghe continued their walk through the academy. Near the cafeteria, they came across a group of noble disciples whose elegant clothes were torn and faces bruised, recent winners, apparently, of an ill-advised wager. It had been less than a year since Shui Qinghe had graduated, and these lads remembered her. Once she was invisible to most. Now, backed by Ning Fengji, she carried weight. The students quickly bowed and kept their distance. Shui Qinghe's gentle, refined bearing, groomed under Ning Fengji, left a good impression. While exchanging a few words, she asked about the exchange match between Heaven Do Royal Academy and Divine Wind Academy. The students explained that the contest had been fairly balanced at first, but everything changed when a young man with a mutated spirit entered the arena. This youth had the twin-headed Storm Devil Wolf as his legacy spirit. Either from raw talent, youthful arrogance, or both, he had utterly dominated the matches, repeatedly besting Heaven Do Royal Academy students. At midday, that very youth climbed the stage and announced, loud enough for everyone within earshot, "Students of Heaven Do Royal Academy, listen well. I, Feng Xian, will beat every single one of you until you admit defeat." Chapter 48. The Feng Family Under the Academy's Guise. Heaven Do Royal Academy, the sole dueling arena. Perhaps because Divine Wind Academy had arrived, or for some other reason, the academy that was usually quiet was now packed. Almost every seat was taken, only a few absentees remained, most of them the children of high nobles, marquises and dukes, and even some members of the royal family. Lin Yu, the son of a marquis, had only just reached the lower rungs of that social ladder. Over 400 noble youths gathered, all dressed in fine silks. Across the arena, the students and teachers of Divine Wind Academy sat in plain cyan robes, a stark contrast. In the center of the arena, a boy of 14 or 15 in cyan battle attire and a black mask hovered in the air. Using his aerial advantage, he summoned a wind blade that shredded a noble youth's defenses and sent him tumbling off the platform. The mask hid his expression, but his posture was supremely calm. He didn't descend. From midair, he called out, voice carrying over the arena, "Anyone else? I'm Feng Xiaotian. I'll deal with you all at once. I won't bother landing. Save us some time." Righteous anger rippled through the 400 nobles, but almost none dared step forward. In the front row, Dugu Yan could not hold back. She stood and said sharply, "Let me face him. I want to see what he's got." A noble girl beside her hurried to pull her back. "No, classmate Dugu. Education Committee member Meng ordered that you must not fight." The restriction came for political reasons. Shui Ye had decided to bring Divine Wind Academy closer, and Meng Shenji, tasked with handling relations, could not allow Dugu Yan, the Dugu family's treasured heir, to risk entering the arena. If she faced Feng Xiaoqian and anything went wrong, it could create trouble between two powerful families. Meng Shenji forbade her from participating. No matter how Dugu Yan sulked, she had to stay seated. In the inner pavilion, the eyes of 4 elders, the 3 members of the Academy's Education Committee and the Feng family head who had come from afar, were fixed on Feng Xiaoqian. Meng Shenji, speaking on behalf of the Academy and with the Emperor's interests in mind, praised, "Brother Feng, your grandson is indeed talented. He has the makings of a titled Douluo." Family head Feng's face remained composed. He waved a hand as if to deflect the compliment. "Brother Meng, you flatter us. Tian'er is young and inexperienced. If he offended your academy in any way, I hope Brother Shenji can overlook it." He sounded modest, but inside he felt pleased. Divine Wind Academy was more a facade for the Feng family than a true academy. Around 30% of its students were Feng family members. Feng Xiaotian, the legitimate eldest grandson with a mutated spirit and full innate power, had been the family's pride. Family head Feng spared no effort nurturing him. Praise from a peer like Meng Shenji pleased him greatly. At that moment, Shui Qingyi, who had come with Lin Yu to the arena, stiffened. Looking at the arrogant boy aloft, her fingers dug into the railing and left shallow marks. A cold, deliberately male-sounding voice escaped her. "Humph, that woman sent the Feng family to heaven due. Is this a warning to me?" Lin Yu's guard went up. The only person his companion would refer to as that woman was likely the current Supreme Pontiff, Bibi Dong. The Feng family? Divine Wind Academy? Had the academy already colluded with Spirit Hall so early? Lin Yu didn't care much for Divine Wind Academy. Turncoats were common enough, but Bibi Dong using them as pawns was a real possibility. He thought about lineage. Spirit legacies and bloodlines mattered everywhere on Douluo Continent. From Spirit Hall to the upper three sects and the royal families, the great powers were founded on family lines. Even within Spirit Hall, aside from a rare few, key positions were held by entrenched families. For an academy to be the front of a family's power was not unprecedented. Elephant Armored Academy openly belonged to the Elephant Armored family. Thunder Academy answered to the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect. Divine Wind, Lin Yu realized, was another family operating under the guise of an academy. He wasn't sure about Skywater. As for Blazing Fire, many members even shared the surname Huo. Shu Qingye patted his shoulder. "How have I treated you, Brother Lin Yu?" "Your Highness, I understand," Lin Yu said. Hearing that woman and Shui Qinghe's tone, Lin Yu suspected she wanted him to step into the arena and put Feng Xiaoqian in his place. She knew his approximate strength and had no reason to think Feng Xiaoqian, only around rank 30, could threaten him. Her hand pressed briefly against his cheek as she leaned close, speaking in a familiar, teasing voice. "I'll leave this to you. I'll make sure to reward you properly tonight, little brother." The sudden warmth at his ear made Lin Yu lose his focus for a second. He walked toward the soul dueling arena with a small, unsteady step. Hidden beneath the disguise of Shui Qinghe, Qian Renxue felt her face flush. Beneath the spirit bone, she muttered, barely audible, "Was that a little improper, Uncle Shi?" Serpent Dragon, skulking in the shadows, was speechless. It wasn't just Lin Yu who felt something. Now his young mistress seemed to be developing feelings for Lin Yu as well. Serpent Dragon didn't find it strange. Qian Renxue, nobility though she was still a young woman, and attraction at her age was natural. Qian Daoliu had already ordered them. Protect both of them, and let everything else unfold naturally. Serpent Dragon and Qishe had no choice but to obey. Chapter 49. Feng Xiaoqian's tricks are exhausted. Feng Xiaoqian was, after all, still young. Excitement flushed his face beneath the black mask. Before he left, his grandfather, the family head and dean of Divine Wind Academy, had warned him to be careful. What he hadn't expected was that the famed Heavendew Royal Academy, the place with the best cultivation resources and environment in the entire Heavendew Empire, would be so lacking in challengers. He had already fought more than 10 matches in a row without needing to use his third spirit ability even once, which was why he had been so cocky earlier. The crowd's reaction chilled a little, and Feng Xiaotian's smugness grew. Just as he was about to taunt the noble students of Heavendew Royal Academy again, Lin Yu stepped up from the stage. "I'll be your opponent." Feng Xiaoqian's eyes brightened. He had been waiting to see which noble scion would venture up. He glanced up, then pointed at Lin Yu and sneered, "Little Junior, you've come to the wrong place. Go call your Heavendew-level brothers and sisters." The students from Divine Wind Academy who had come with Feng Xiaoqian, and even many nobles from Heavendew Royal Academy, burst into laughter. "Who let this kid onto the stage? He's only here to make a fool of himself." "Exactly. This'll make Divine Wind Academy think there's nobody left in Heavendew Royal Academy." The noble circles of Heavendew City were close-knit. Lin Yu had almost no interactions with the other noble scions of the Heavendew Empire, beyond a few classmates. He was, like Shui Qinghe had once been in the imperial family, effectively invisible among the nobles. Although his earlier incident at the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School had created some noise, it had been contained by the right people and never spread widely. So now, faced with the mockery, Lin Yu's pale red eyes remained calm. He wasn't moved by outward jeers or personal slights. Ambitions of that sort were beyond a mortal like him. As a certain ruler once said, "When you grow tired of searching, you learn to see at a glance. When the headwind comes, you learn to withstand winds from every direction and keep sailing." Having lived through more in his previous life, Lin Yu had seen through most things. Seeing Feng Xiaotian still full of ridicule, he activated his spirit with quiet composure. A huge green phantom erupted behind him, and Feng Xiaotian's scoffing expression changed on the spot. On the rostrum, the family head, a high-level spirit Douluo, noticed the change in the arena immediately. His expression turned serious. He smiled calmly at Education Committee member Meng. "Member Meng, I didn't expect Heaven Do Royal Academy to be a storehouse of hidden talents. It looks like Tian'er won't have this match so easily." Meng Shenji, likewise, had not focused much on Lin Yu's appearance. But when Lin Yu released his spirit, Meng's expression shifted. Lin Yu's giant-winged emerald demon bird spirit was unexpectedly impressive, even compared to Lin Zhan, whom Meng knew well. Spirits of the same type can differ greatly in quality. Just like the Clear Sky Hammer of the Clear Sky Sect, which ordinary members cannot compare to the hammers of Tang Xiao and Tang Hao, Lin Yu's emerald demon bird, having evolved twice after absorbing 2 spirit rings, had its basic attributes greatly enhanced. In a level-to-level comparison, Lin Yu's emerald demon bird surpassed Lin Zhan's. As the phantom of the giant-winged emerald demon bird manifested, 2 spirit rings spun around Lin Yu. A pair of green wings appeared behind him, and the Qing Shuang sword was already in his hand. But one oddity stood out. Lin Yu's second spirit ring now showed an ordinary yellow color. Lin Yu, Spirit Emerald Demon Bird, level 28, a strong agile dual-attack spirit grandmaster. "Please," he announced. Feng Xiaotian lowered his sneer and released his spirit as well. Feng Xiaotian, Spirit Twin-Headed Demon Wolf, level 34, a strong agile dual-attack spirit elder. "Please enlighten me." The referee teacher shouted for the match to begin. Without hesitation, Feng Xiaotian activated his third spirit ability, Gale Wings, and shot into the sky. Lin Yu didn't hesitate either. With a flap of the green wings behind him, he too rose into the air. Because Feng Xiaotian had used his ability slightly earlier, he held the high ground. To maintain that advantage, he unleashed his first spirit ability, Wind Blade Array, condensing spirit power and wind elements into a flurry of spirit blades that streaked toward Lin Yu. "Hey, little brother, do you want Big Brother to go easy on you?" Feng Xiaotian called out, his frivolity slipping back through, even as he took Lin Yu seriously as an opponent. The taunt drew knowing smiles from the noble scions and from the Divine Wind Academy students watching from the stands. Lin Yu's eyes flashed cold. He was slightly irritated. Big Brother, indeed. Using graceful aerial maneuvers, Lin Yu darted and dodged the wind blades one after another. The Qing Shuang sword glinted. In a fluid motion, Lin Yu lunged as if a dragon leapt from water, the blade aiming straight for Feng Xiaotian. His exquisite swordsmanship made the audience watching the stage sit up, and Meng Shenji and the other Education Committee members were particularly surprised. They hadn't expected Lin Yu to possess such masterful sword technique. As for the Qing Shuang sword itself, they recognized it as an external spirit bone. Knowing that curbed their greed, such items could draw dangerous attention, and none of the spirit saints present would risk making a move over a spirit bone that was nearly impossible to obtain. That was why Lin Yu could display it with relative safety. For the time being, as long as a spirit saint or above did not intervene, there would be no major trouble. Under the fierce sword light, Feng Xiaotian's situation in the air worsened. Unlike Lin Yu, who had preserved his spirit power, Feng Xiaotian had been constantly deploying spirit abilities and was burning through his reserves. As Lin Yu's blade bore down, a resolute look crossed Feng Xiaotian's face. "Brother Lin, I admit I underestimated you. You're the first to push me this far at the Spirit Grandmaster level. But Feng Xiaotian is not someone to be bullied. Next, let me show you my self-created spirit ability. Brother Lin." Storm Devil Wolf, 18 consecutive slashes. The pale purple third spirit ring behind Feng Xiaoqian flared again. His self-made spirit ability was clearly built on top of his third spirit skill, Gale Wings. While Gale Wings boosted his speed, he activated his second spirit ability, Twin Wolf Possession. Two illusory wolf shadows formed and then merged into his body. With that amplification, Feng Xiaoqian's speed and power surged to a peak state. He extended the razor-sharp claws granted by the possession and unleashed a torrent of wind blades. The blades kept stacking. Their force rose with every strike. Lin Yu, holding the Qingshuang sword, felt the pressure of those wind blades growing with each one. To have developed his spirit abilities to this level, even without innate full spirit power, Feng Xiaoqian was undeniably talented. But Lin Yu saw it differently. This was the result of a deep development and application of existing spirit skills, not a true self-created ability. A genuinely self-created spirit ability, Lin thought, would look more like what Tang Chen of the Clear Sky sect had achieved. Despite their future enmity, Lin Yu respected Tang Chen. Tang had forced Qian Renxue, who carried a portion of divine force, into submission, not merely because his spirit power was higher, but because he understood his spirit so well that the Clear Sky 9 absolutes transformed the slow, cumbersome Clear Sky hammer into an overwhelming weapon. No one on the Douluo Continent matched that. Feng Xiaoqian's 18 consecutive slashes resembled the Clear Sky sect's disorderly splitting wind, but Lin Yu believed it was still only a development of his own abilities. Feng Xiaoqian had been stuck at the same place for 10 years, advancing only one rank of spirit power per year. His progress was painfully slow. Lin Yu suspected the Divine Wind Academy, and his family must be worried. He had no intention of reminding or helping them, though. He distrusted the Divine Wind Academy and the Feng family, who played both sides with Bibi Dong and the Heaven Du Empire. The Blazing Academy and other clans were just as opportunistic. Lin Yu tightened his grip on the Qingshuang sword and met the barrage. He blocked the 14th through 17th wind blades, waiting. Feng Xiaoqian, sensing his final blow approaching, was full of confidence. He expected Lin Yu to be forced to use a spirit ability. Arrogance swelled in him, being bested by someone much younger and a realm lower rank stung. The wind element gathered into one massive blade as the 18th strike, the combined force of all previous slashes, hurled toward Lin Yu. Lin Yu held the Qingshuang horizontally and met it with a calm, self-created horizontal sword move. He refrained from unleashing his sword intent, otherwise he could have ended the match long before. The clear frost blade was cold as snow, one strike that could illuminate 19 provinces. With a faint current of momentum, the horizontal stance of the Qingshuang sliced through Feng Xiaoqian's smug Storm Devil Wolf, 18 consecutive slashes. The blade's momentum did not stop. Just as it was about to cleave into Feng Xiaoqian, within a fist's distance, Lin Yu withdrew it deliberately. "Thank you for the match, little Feng brother." Lin Yu exaggerated the little, making Feng Xiaoqian, who often mocked others, flush with embarrassment. He bolted off the stage without a word. Lin Yu cleaned his clothes, hid any hint of merit, and quietly stepped down as well. Among the watching students from both academies, Meng Shenji's gaunt face broke into a smile. "Apologies, old brother Feng, but this time we count it as a small victory." The family head was nothing like Feng Xiaoqian, an old fox who knew how to protect his own. Seeing Lin Yu's blade come down, even with a referee nearby, he had been genuinely worried. If his favored legitimate grandson had been injured, it would have been a serious loss. He laughed and chatted with the 3 education committee members of the Heaven Do Royal Academy, but in his mind, he was already calculating. Lin Yu had concealed much of his strength, yet still showed astonishing talent certain people would not want to see. At the Divine Wind Academy, a humiliated Feng Xiaoqian sat off stage, staring into space. He drifted every time a fellow student tried to speak to him. He replayed the scene again and again, his 2 years of mastering a self-created technique, broken by a single sword strike. It stung worse than the time his beloved sister Xiao Wu ignored him. Xiao Wu was only 8 years old. After a long while, he remembered his grandfather's words, that his self-created move resembled the Clear Sky sect's disorderly splitting wind, which consisted of 81 stacking hammer strikes that, when completed, could flatten mountains and topple peaks. His own move only reached 18 slashes. If only he could extend it to 81. Suddenly his eyes lit with a fanatic spark. That's it! My Storm Devil Wolf consecutive slashes aren't flawed. The number is just too small. If I could stack it 81 times like the Clear Sky Hammer. He lost himself in wild excitement. How long that fever would last, no one knew. Perhaps he would only calm down the day his prideful 81 slashes were broken casually by someone else. Lin Yu returned to his room at the Heaven Dew Royal Academy. When he opened the door, a beautiful figure stood there in a snow-white dress, skin like frost, golden hair falling to her waist, eyes the bright curve of a phoenix, and a smile that lit her face. "You're back. How did it feel, defeating an innate, full-spirit power genius?" Qian Renxue's voice was clear and pleasant as an Oriol's call, with a hint of excitement. "Not bad," Lin Yu replied. "But elder sister, why are you?" For the past 3 years, Qian Renxue had disguised herself as Shui Qinghe, almost always wearing men's clothes. Lin Yu could barely remember seeing her in women's clothing. Before the plan, she had worn a plain palace-made dress, which was decent, but nothing like this. Qian Renxue reached out and pinched his cheek with a playful, jade hand, her eyes curved into smiling crescents. "What's wrong? You taught that old woman's lackey a lesson. Aren't I allowed to be happy?" A woman's mind is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Qian Renxue might not have been a conventional woman, but Lin Yu said nothing back. After a few minutes of light conversation, he found himself obliged to fulfill his elder sister's usual request. She never lifted a finger for herself, and prepare some delicious food. Outside the window, Serpent Dragon and Sishui saw Qian Renxue in white and couldn't help clenching their fists. They were old men, after all. A woman dressing up for the one she loves was not a sight they could take lightly. Qian Renxue leaned close and teased, "I almost forgot. My surprise. Are you all looking forward to it?" Chapter 51. 5 Elemental Academies, Crystal Blood Dragon Ginseng. In short, that's the situation. Aside from the Elephant Armored Academy, which belongs to the Elephant Armored Sect, and the Thunder Academy, which leans toward the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect, the Divine Wind Academy and the Blazing Academy are academies in name only. Both are really great families' legacies. The Feng and Huo families even intermarry for generations because their spirits complement each other in battle. As for this generation, that Feng Xiaoqian you just fought seems likely to be the next clan chief of the Feng family. As Qian Renxue outlined the lay of the land among the elemental academies, she slowly ate the few simple dishes Lin Yu had prepared. Lin Yu had struggled for years in his previous life. His cooking wasn't extraordinary, but it was more than adequate. Otherwise, Spirit Hall's little princess would not be eating so contentedly. Qian Renxue had tasted every delicacy imaginable, so the novelty of Lin Yu's food mattered less than the fact she felt unconsciously close to him. If his cooking wasn't actively awful, she could enjoy it. When Qian Renxue finished, Lin Yu couldn't help asking, "What about the Heaven Water Academy?" Qian Renxue paused, then said slowly, "Heaven Water is probably the weakest of the 5 elemental academies. Academy Dean Shui Xinyu is only a spirit saint around level 77. The reason they still stand with the others is that they're the only advanced female spirit master academy on the Douluo Continent. Because they train advanced female spirit masters, they aren't as dominated by family influence. Still, even without families pulling strings, they keep to themselves. They're nominally part of the 5 elemental academies, but they've never been too close to the others. They stay neutral and don't favor any particular faction." An amused thought crossed Qian Renxue's mind. She pursed her cherry-red lips, and a trace of disdain flickered across her eyes. "I heard my grandfather say once that my imperial father tried to win over Academy Dean Shui Xinyue. He offered her the position of imperial consort, hoping the Shui family's condensing water flying Luan spirit would improve the Heaven Do royal family's laughably weak swan spirit. As for the result," Qian Renxue went on, "my grandfather said Shui Xinyue sent the whole royal wedding procession to the far north to feed the Ice Plains snow wolves." The story, coming from Spirit Hall, was hardly an idle rumor, and it was shocking, an academy dean and spirit saint, had not only refused Emperor Shui, but had also effectively sacrificed members of the Heaven Du royal family to the wolves. Few outside Spirit Hall would dare such a thing. Lin Yu stared, stunned. Qian Renxue, her expression shifting to sly delight, snatched the last piece of spicy rabbit meat and chewed it with pleasure. The slight spiciness suited a young woman like her. Her mood brightened further. She stretched lazily in front of Lin Yu and, with no restraint, teased. I'm not sure of all the details, but Shui, furious, planned to send a huge army to wipe out Heaven Water Academy. He changed his decree the very next day. Her meaning was clear. Heaven Water Academy might not seem powerful outwardly, but appearance could be deceptive. Lin Yu understood the warning, though the 5 elemental academies weren't as mighty as the upper 3 sects. Surviving so long meant deep, solid foundations. I understand, sister. By the way, does that offer you mentioned earlier still stand? Lin Yu asked, having cleared the dishes. He moved closer and, with a grin, rubbed his hands together. Qian Renxue smiled and placed her hand on her smooth lower belly, then reached out with a jade-white finger to pinch Lin Yu's cheek. You remember well, but she began, teasing. Didn't you say there would be a surprise? Lin Yu pressed. Her face lit up like a flowering tree. She rose, turning a little so Lin Yu could see her. In a snow-white dress, she looked graceful and poised. She spun once, then sat down beside him. How's this? I don't wear women's clothes often. I only put this on for you. Is that a good surprise? Very good. Excellent. Lin Yu said hastily, though his heart hammered. His answer was a lie. He was flustered, and a part of him feared where this was headed. A woman's intuition seemed to notice everything. Qian Renxue leaned her head into his shoulder with a little bump, and her slender hand found the soft flesh at his waist. Little brother Yu, she said, teasing and suddenly a bit possessive, why does it sound like you're not entirely pleased with sister's surprise? Lin Yu stiffened. Before he could think of how to soothe her, something appeared in her hand, a small jade box. Her fair hand shook slightly as she offered it to him, and the sight of it tugged at his spirit. His wood spirit scroll stirred. In an instant, Lin Yu knew what kind of thing could make that reaction. Only a heaven and earth treasure on the level of the plants from the ice and fire yin-yang xiaomens could affect his spirit that way. Qian Renxue's expression softened. Here, I won't tease you any longer. This is the surprise. I planned to give it when you reached 3 rings, but I didn't expect Feng Xiaoqian to be so arrogant, so I had to give it to you early. They were alone in Lin Yu's small room. Besides the 2 elderly gatekeepers outside, there was no one to worry about. Lin Yu hesitated. Thank you, sister, but isn't this too valuable? Qian Renxue shrugged. How would you know? Open it and see. He did. When the lid came off, Lin Yu froze. Inside lay a ginseng root over a foot long, entirely blood-red and crystalline. The knobs and ridges on its surface were arranged so that when viewed together, they resembled a colossal dragon coiling up into the sky. Lin Yu's throat went dry. He felt his lips move before he thought to stop them. Crystal blood dragon ginseng, he breathed. For a fleeting moment, the gift reminded Lin Yu of a tale he'd heard. Tang San had once taken a family's heaven and earth treasure that had been crucial to Xiao Wu's revival, yet gave nothing to Bai Chensheng in return, allowing her to die of old age. Qian Renxue smiled softly, her gaze drifting over the crystal blood dragon ginseng as she spoke in a low voice. I don't know why your 2 spirits didn't clash, but I do know your second spirit isn't ordinary. From what you said, its method of gaining spirit rings is far less risky than hunting spirit beasts. Heaven and earth treasures aren't easy to come by. Even Dugu Bo could only manage 2 stalks. I couldn't bear the thought of your extraordinary second spirit missing a good ring, so I begged Grandpa Crocodile until he got this for you. So, do you like the surprise? Lin Yu, who felt Qian Renxue's fingers through his hair, was momentarily lost for words. The stalk of crystal blood dragon ginseng before him was the one heaven and earth treasure from the original timeline that hadn't come from the ice and fire yin-yang well. Though only about 5,000 years old, it carried the title of the Empress of Ginsengs, born grade 8, 10,000-year grade 9, and even a 100,000-year grade 9 ginseng king was only half a step above it. Despite being uprooted, it could still draw on the sun and moon's essence to sustain itself and grow. Moved, Lin Yu released his second spirit, the Wood Spirit Scroll. Instead of the kind of wood spirit power that directly promoted heaven and earth treasures, delicate threads of wood spirit qi flowed into the ginseng under his control. The blood-red body of the crystal blood dragon ginseng responded immediately, sending up dazzling red halos like the finest blood agate. The wood spirit qi was exactly what the ginseng needed. For a moment it seemed almost intoxicated by the pure plant energy. Given how the ginseng had long depended on lunar and solar essences, the sudden influx overwhelmed it temporarily, but once it finished absorbing the qi, the effect would stabilize and only encourage its growth. The wood spirit qi from the scroll could not compare to true wood spirit power. It merely promoted plant growth. Once he satisfied himself that there were no other abnormalities, Lin Yu returned the ginseng to its jade box and closed it. He hadn't expected Qian Renxue to have such resources. She had procured the one heaven and earth treasure from the original timeline that hadn't come from the well. He had thought it belonged to Tang San's benefactor, Bai He, yet here it was, thanks to Golden Crocodile. Meeting Qian Renshue's clear eyes, he asked, hesitant, "Sister, did you have the second consecrator look for this when he came to Heaven Do City?" Qian Renxue nodded, smiling. "Yes. Do you like it?" Lin Yu could only nod. Of course he liked it, even within his ice and fire yin-yang grass. Well, there were very few things comparable. If it reached the 10,000-year level, he was certain it would rival the yearning heartbroken red within his own well, a relic he'd been unwilling to touch. Qian Renxue continued, "Then your third spirit ring is settled. I've already told Grandpa Crocodile to keep searching for the rest. I told him to pay attention to that Yueguan you mentioned. If something suitable turns up, I'll get it for you." Hearing that, Lin Yu felt more than gratitude. This woman, not his blood sister, but closer than one in many ways, had done something heavy for him, and he felt compelled to repay her. The knot in his heart loosened. At the same time, a single image flashed through his mind: the coxcomb phoenix sunflower, a cluster of golden red filaments carrying a scorching aura, a perfect match for Qian Renshue's seraphim spirit and its holy, searing fire. In the original plan, he had intended to use that stalk for his fourth spirit ring. Right now, the autumn water dew from the River of Oblivion was what he needed for his third. Reborn and blessed with the life divinity, Lin Yu had ambitions to push himself forward, and earlier consumption of treasures before 30 years old mattered more. But treasures did not wait. He hesitated. He realized that always taking from others was hardly the right path. Even if the coxcomb phoenix sunflower would be invaluable to him, if he had to choose between it and Qian Renxue, the choice was obvious. Resolving it for himself, Lin Yu opened the living storage bracelet Dugu Bo had given him and took out a jade box identical to the one holding the ginseng. Qian Renxue, who had been about to change into her favorite dress, stared in surprise. Before she could speak, Lin Yu opened the box. A wave of scorching heat rolled out and the coxcomb phoenix sunflower unfurled, countless golden red filaments glowing like embers. "Sister, do you like it?" Lin Yu's voice, gentle and a little boyish, sounded close to her ear. Before she could answer, Lin Yu felt something inside him loosen, a mental constraint lifting, and his spirit cleared. It brought to mind what the old dean had once called a heart knot. He had chosen to give the coxcomb phoenix sunflower to Qian Renxue rather than hoard it for himself. He knew that sacrificing this treasure might jeopardize his chance of winning a 10,000-year third spirit ring. Choosing the sunflower over the autumn water dew could mean missing that particular edge. It was a regret, but a small one. For the future and for the pursuit of her, that small price was nothing. The road ahead held endless possibilities, but the young lord standing before him was unique. He could not, would not, confuse the two. Chapter 53. His own sister must be cherished by himself. 5 months slipped by in an instant, and Lin Yu's spirit power suddenly jumped from rank 28 to rank 30. There was a small bottleneck at the spirit elder realm. Unless one possessed a divine rank spirit like Qian Renxue, most people, no matter how talented, would be held up there for a time. Lin Yu had expected to be stuck at the peak of rank 29 for about a month. He never expected that only a few days after reaching that peak, less than 3 in fact, he would wake up to find he had already reached rank 30. When his spirit rank hit 30, his second spirit, the Wood Spirit Scroll, responded with another surge of Wood Spirit power. If that Wood Spirit power could be used to refine a heaven and earth treasure, he would be able to break through beyond rank 30. Waking up that morning to a breakthrough, Lin Yu was ecstatic. He threw on his clothes and hurried to the family dining room. Because Lin Yu was seldom home, Yu Ru, the Marcus's wife, had taken it upon herself to cook. She just finished making breakfast for the 3 of them when Lin Yu arrived at the dining room. Seeing her son, who was rarely home, come downstairs so early, she was visibly delighted. "Good morning, mother," Lin Yu called. Yu Ru, gentle and dignified, smiled as she reached out and pinched his cheek. Her fair hand moved with the tenderness of a proud mother, and doting warmth shone in her blue eyes. You're so good. Mommy just finished breakfast for you 2 men. Hurry and eat." Since his spirit awakening, Lin Yu had been away more often than not, so being with his mother felt especially moving. There truly was nothing like a mother in this world. In his previous life, he'd been abandoned for an innate illness and adopted by the old dean as an infant, so he'd never known parental love. Reborn, he treasured everything he had never had. Though he was eager to find his sister, he calmed himself. She wouldn't run away. For now, spending time with his mother and ensuring she wouldn't worry about him was more important. For once, Lin Yu, barely 10 but already over 1.6 meters tall, acted like a child. He bounced lightly, swatted Yu Ru's hand off his head, grinned, and ran into the family's small dining room, which was some 400 or 500 square meters in size. After breakfast and lingering with his parents until nearly noon, he climbed into the carriage his servants had prepared. The carriage moved at a leisurely pace, about the speed of a slow jog, heading for Heaven-Do City. Lin Jian and Yu Ro stood at the gate watching Lin Yu leave. Lin Jian suddenly remembered a letter the high priest had sent not long ago and sighed. "My whole life has been lived for others. For 30-odd years, I almost forgot who I truly was. But I never expected Yu to turn out like this. Compared to him, my past 30 years were worth it." Yu Ro listened, puzzled by her husband's muttering. She didn't fully understand what he meant this time. After leaving the Lin estate, Lin Yu rode the carriage into Heaven-Do City and arrived at the imperial city. The city guards were royal knights, once Lin Jian's subordinates. When they saw Lin Yu, they performed a quick routine check and let him pass. It helped that Lin Yu had suppressed Feng Xiaoqian across realms at the Heaven-Do Royal Academy and that he was Lin Jian's son. Emperor Shuiye, who relied heavily on Lin Jian, had been pleased and granted Lin Yu the privilege of coming and going from the imperial city at will. Lin Yu no longer needed his sister to receive him every time he entered the city. Lin Yu's recent performance as a genius had another effect. It drew the emperor's attention toward Shui Ke, a son he'd previously paid little mind to. Having been consumed by grief over losing a son, Shuiye was surprised to discover that his second son, Shui Qinghe, possessed talent. He tolerated and even encouraged Shui Qinghe's friendship with Lin Yu. Shui Qinghe also had a powerful patron, Ning Fengji, sect master of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Ning Fengji's efforts to promote Shui Qinghe had pushed Shuiye, long uninterested in naming a crown prince, to reconsider. Ning's moves were subtle, but they didn't escape Lin Yu and his sister. The current Shui Qinghe had few supporters, and only someone as influential as Ning Fengji could produce the results seen at court. The 2 of them had no complaint. In fact, they hoped Ning would be even more effective. Ning had his own agenda, but he was unaware that the prince he was backing had long since been replaced. Where Lin Yu enjoyed a leisurely life, Qian Renxue, disguised as Shui Qinghe, was constantly busy. Now that Shuiye had begun to value Shui Qinghe more highly, Shui Qinghe had to participate in the endless, messy royal duties. She returned late almost every time, snatched a quick bite, had Lin Yu place a clone outside, and then dragged him to the secret chamber to cultivate. Lin Yu often thought, with some amusement and exasperation, "Shuiye, just you wait. This young master will make sure you pay for this sooner or later." Despite the busyness, Qian Renxue's cultivation never lagged. Though under 14 years old, She had already reached rank 49 spirit ancestor, one step from becoming a spirit king. Even so, Lin Yu didn't make things easy for her. While waiting for Qian Renxue, he silently decided that he must cherish his own sister personally. He waited at Xueqing's residence until Qian Renxue, still wearing Xueqing's appearance, finally returned. The sleeping quarters were the only place in the sprawling mansion where no one could pry. With Serpent Dragon and Qi Shui posted at the door, Qian Renxue dropped the disguise the moment she saw Lin Yu and reverted to her true form. Her delicate face was breathtaking, skin fair and flawless, eyes bright with unconcealed joy. She practically leaped forward and wrapped him in a sisterly hug. "Great, you're finally here." Lin Yu paused at the astonishing softness. He patted her slender shoulder gently and couldn't help smiling. "Sister, I come every day. Must you be so dramatic?" Qian Renxue released him and a sly light flickered in her eyes. "Usually no, but little brother you just broke through to Spirit Elder. Of course I'm happy. Also, you brought the thing, right?" Chapter 54. Big sister is too beautiful. I can't pull my legs away. Of course, Qian Renxue was in an excellent mood. She took Lin Yu's hand and, a little urgently, said, "Xiao Yu, quickly release 2 clones. Let's hurry to the secret chamber." For some reason, hearing Qian Renxue say secret chamber made Lin Yu feel odd. It made him think of that woman, the Supreme Pontiff, who had never favored Qian Renxue. A secret chamber, now that was something to look forward to. As he drifted off for a moment, Qian Renxue didn't hesitate. She smacked the back of his head and called sweetly, "What are you thinking about that's got you spaced out?" With his head lightly tapped, Lin Yu looked at the stunning beauty before him, dressed in luxurious clothes, her face exquisite, and blurted out without thinking, "Big sister, you're too beautiful. I can't take my eyes off you." Qian Renxue froze. Was she being flirted with? By a boy younger than her, a boy she had personally acknowledged as her younger brother. She was momentarily stunned, but the key problem was Lin Yu. Her willow brows drew together. A fair, jade-like hand reached out. Her slender fingers went straight to Lin Yu's waist. This time she showed no mercy. Qian Renxue pinched the soft flesh at his side and twisted hard. Lin Yu gasped sharply. Qian Renxue, flustered and embarrassed herself, hadn't expected that she, the young miss of Spirit Hall, would be flirted with, especially by a younger brother. Her annoyance grew, her jade hand twisted again. Lin Yu howled in pain, instantly regretting his careless words. After tormenting him a little and seeing his exaggerated reaction as if she were trying to kill him, Qian Renshui's anger inexplicably softened. "All right, stop pretending. My hand's been on you for so long, I don't believe you're still hurting." Still crying out in mock pain, Lin Yu immediately fell silent and turned his head with an embarrassed smile. "Big sister, I was wrong. I shouldn't have." "You were wrong? In what way? And what shouldn't you have done?" A mischievous glint passed across her golden eyes. Her fair hand gently pinched Lin Yu's chin, lifting his face to meet her light red eyes. In that moment, Lin Yu realized his big sister wasn't really angry. "Big sister, I—" Before he could finish, Qian Renshui's tone softened exceptionally. "Xiao Yu, listen to big sister, okay? You're still too young. Focus on cultivating for now. When you're older, I'm sure many beautiful girls will like you." Hearing her gentle words, Lin Yu uncharacteristically stayed quiet. He quietly took the jade box that held the coxcomb phoenix sunflower from the bracelet that could store living things, then released his second spirit, the wood spirit scroll. The moment the wood spirit scroll unfurled, the secret chamber filled with thick wood spirit chi. The scroll bore no characters. Instead, it was engraved with countless emerald mountains, rivers, and vegetation, breathtaking to behold. 2 purple spirit rings revolved around it. Lin Yu activated the 3rd strand of wood spirit power condensed within the scroll. A white bolt of radiance slowly streamed from it, a vibrant life chi that made even Qian Renshui's eyes sparkle. Lin Yu guided the white radiance straight into the coxcomb phoenix sunflower. As the flower absorbed the light, it began to sublime. A scorching red glow burst from it, and the cool secret chamber rapidly became unbearably hot. Within breaths, both Lin Yu and Qian Renxue were sweating. The latter's golden hair stuck damply to her skin, revealing the fresh beauty of youth. Fortunately, the sublimation didn't last long. When it finished, the coxcomb phoenix sunflower had changed. Where it had been blood red with flecks of gold, it was now gilded with crimson. As with the previous two immortal herbs, the flower granted Lin Yu a spirit ring. To his surprise, this ring was black, a 10,000-year spirit ring. Regardless of its age, an immortal herb's spirit ring always matched the user best, and Lin Yu absorbed it through the Wood Spirit Scroll without strain. He also gained the Wood Spirit Scroll's third spirit ability, Scorching Heart. When activated, it plunges the user into a berserk-like frenzy, but crucially produces no side effects before or after use. The Wood Spirit Scroll remained overwhelmingly powerful, enough to make Ningfengji green with envy and perhaps wish he could kill Lin Yu out of spite. After Lin Yu finished absorbing the third spirit ring, he explained the spirit ability to Qian Renxue. She stroked the now golden coxcomb phoenix sunflower with a sigh. Xiao Yu, Big Sister really wants to keep you by her side forever. Your emerald demon bird is already powerful, and your second spirit makes Big Sister even more reluctant to let you go. Lin Yu smiled faintly. Big Sister, don't worry. I'll always stay by your side. I'll never leave. Then Qian Renxue began. She had been about to say that as a boy he would need to marry and have children, so how could he stay with her forever? But Lin Yu's earlier words, Big Sister, you're too beautiful. I can't take my eyes off you, replayed in her mind and gave her a daring thought. If Xiao Yu liked her, wouldn't that mean he'd never leave? The idea flushed her delicate earlobes. Immediately, she scolded herself inwardly. Bah, Qian Renxue, he's your younger brother and he's so young. How could you think like that? Still, the turmoil passed quickly. Calmer now, she made a quiet decision. Wait a few years. If Xiao Yu grows up and is still by her side, and if he keeps her in his heart, then perhaps it wouldn't be unacceptable. She trusted the boy she had watched grow up. She believed he would one day be someone worthy of her trust. Chapter 55. Lin Yu, what was I even expecting? Qian Renxue liked the coxcomb phoenix sunflower in her hand, now golden with elevation, but she wasn't sentimental about eating it. She might be uncertain about her feelings, but she never lost sight of her path. Following Lin Yu's suggestion, she ate it. Her cherry lips pursed, her golden eyes fixed on Lin Yu, and she murmured almost without thinking, "It's really sweet. Do you have any more?" "No, Sister Shui. Are you sure you don't want to refine it right away?" Lin Yu asked. The moment he spoke, an intense, burning power erupted within Qian Renxue. She realized, startled, that the flower's effect took hold immediately. She gave Lin Yu a playful roll of her eyes, then sat on the bed in the secret chamber and began to refine it, drawing on her spirit. Lin Yu stayed at her side as protector while she worked. Unseen by them, the two old men who had been quietly suppressing their spirit power nearby exchanged stunned looks. "Old partner, did you see that just now?" Shishui, someone who rarely spoke, was wide-eyed with disbelief and even patted the serpent dragon beside him a few times. Serpent Dragon, however, seemed used to Lin Yu's uncanny actions. He brushed Shishui's hand away and said calmly, "Why are you surprised? The young lord favors him. Of course he's not ordinary." Shishui nodded, suddenly understanding. Even though their young lord had been absent from the spirit hall for nearly 5 years, he was still the young lord, and his judgment couldn't be poor. Maybe the high priest trusted him, which was why he hadn't intervened. Shui's thoughts raced. Since Lin Yu would likely become the high priest's grandson-in-law, shouldn't they try to curry favor? They had reached the limit of their cultivation in this life. Level 94 would have been a blessing, but they still had family to think of. In the spirit hall, most priests and titled elders were tied to their clans. For the sake of their families, flattering someone like Lin Yu might not be a bad idea. Serpent Dragon cut him off. "Have you forgotten the high priest's orders? Our task is to protect him and the young lord. Best not to have any other intentions." Shui fell silent, then reluctantly agreed. Back in the chamber, Qian Renxue's face flushed crimson as the heat of refining built up. Her delicate features tightened with discomfort, yet she persisted, teeth clenched. Lin Yu, feeling the heat in the room, noticed the flames around her abating after about half an hour. Finally, she finished. Her spirit surged, leaping to level 50, shaving months off arduous cultivation. If she hadn't been short a spirit ring, she might even have made 1 or 2 small breakthroughs. That, however, was only a fraction of the coxcomb phoenix sunflower's full power after elevation. Qian Renxue opened her brilliant golden eyes and couldn't hide her delight. She sprang up and flung herself into Lin Yu's arms. "Thank you, Xiao Yu." Feeling the excitement of the woman in his arms, Lin Yu patted her back. "I know, but Sister Shui, are you sure you don't want to bathe first?" The coxcomb phoenix sunflower was a pure yang herb whose effects were fierce. Even elevated, it had been forcibly upgraded by the wood spirit power in the wood spirit scroll. Refining it had taken effort. Qian Renxue realized she did feel sticky and blushed. "Humph," she said, lightly tapping Lin Yu's head before dashing for the bath. When she came out, she had changed into feminine clothes, a light gold dress cinched with a white sash that accentuated her figure. Her fair skin glowed from the bath, her golden, waist-length hair damp and pulled into a ponytail. She looked radiant. "How is it? Much better now, right?" she asked, beaming. "Yes, but we're going out to hunt spirit beasts tomorrow. Are you sure you want to wear that?" Lin Yu asked. Qian Renxue ignored him, swaying over to the bed, pulling back the covers and settling in like she owned the place. "Humph, my sacred fire just reached ultimate fire. Can't I enjoy myself a little?" That explained her good mood. The Seraphim's sacred fire was already formidable, and with the coxcomb phoenix sunflower's boost advancement was likely. Before Lin Yu could gather his thoughts, Qian Renxue grabbed his wrist and tugged him toward the bed. She patted the mattress and said nonchalantly, "Come on, don't say your sister mistreats you. We can share the bed, but don't cross the line or else." "Humph." Lin Yu's expression tightened. He hadn't expected this. He couldn't act on anything. But wasn't this a promising start? What if Sister Renshue's sleeping posture was poor and she unconsciously leaned into him? He had no room for hesitation and lay down beside her. After the chamber lamp was extinguished, they fell asleep in each other's arms, each with different thoughts. The night passed uneventfully. In the morning, Qian Renxue, having finally rested after constant cultivation, was radiant and looked healthier. In contrast, Lin Yu, who had been anticipating all night, looked haggard. He couldn't help but laugh inwardly at himself. What was I even expecting? The idea that she would toss and turn and tumble into his arms in her sleep was absurd. Once Qian Renxue fell asleep, she was perfectly still from start to finish, leaving the impure-minded Lin Yu to wait in vain all night. Half a month later, Qian Renxue, the incarnation of Shui Qinghe, finally found a good excuse to travel north and inspect the livelihood of the people along the frontier. Emperor Shuiye did not object and immediately granted permission. He knew the workload Shui Qinghe had been carrying was too heavy. Not only private lessons from the royal family's instructors, but also studies at the 7 treasure glazed tile school with Ning Fengji. Over time, it had to be wearing. If you want a horse to run, you must feed it. Shuiye, who understood how thinly familial affection was distributed within the royal family, was especially mindful of that. He therefore allowed Shui Qinghe a full 2 months for this northern inspection. As for Lin Yu, things were simpler. The family already knew that at the Heaven Do Royal Academy, he was the student Meng Shenji paid the most attention to. As long as his requests weren't excessive, they would turn a blind eye. A carriage bearing the swan emblem of the Heaven Do imperial family moved slowly down the main road in the northern region, escorted by 20 to 30 spirit masters. Qian Renxue, who had grown up in the mild climate of Spirit City, was particularly sensitive to cold. Even before they reached the far north, she had put on an expensive fur coat. Lin Yu, however, was a little annoyed. The heavy fur hid the tall, slender figure of his young lord's sister and spoiled his chance to admire her. Wrapped in that warm layer, Qian Renxue smiled softly and said to the young man beside her, "Xiao Yu, you're so clever. If the rest of the imperial family had been following us, we would have been under all kinds of restrictions." Lin Yu only smiled. With his help, Qian Renshue's cultivation had advanced astonishingly fast. The seraphim spirit she bore was inherently divine rank, and coupled with the wood spirit scroll that doubled her cultivation speed, her progress was inevitable. To avoid trouble while hunting spirit beasts, Lin Yu also arranged, through Serpent Dragon and his father Lin Zhan's influence, to borrow a squad of guards from the Angel clan in Spirit City. With Qian Dalu's approval, that squad became an elite unit within the Heaven Do military for the duration of their journey. Without that nod, not even Bibi Dong could have commanded those guards. They did not strike straight into a spirit beast forest. To avoid danger, they passed through several frontier towns in the northern Heaven Do Empire, and Qian Renxue made several deliberately low-key appearances. Then, as they neared the icebound forest, one of the guards interrupted the casual conversation in the carriage. Reporting to the young miss, the icebound forest is 50 li ahead. Should we send scouts forward? Qian Renxue bristled at the interruption, but she was not spoiled like Ning Rongrong. The guards were only doing their duty to protect her, and she could not reasonably be angry at that. She smoothed her clothes, and the gentleness she'd shown Lin Yu gave way to an aura like that of a queen, calm, composed, and a little remote. Her voice turned cool. Find a more secluded entrance. You don't need to scout. Enter the icebound forest directly. Yes, young miss, the guard replied and left. Qian Renxue made a mock gesture as if to hit him in annoyance. Lin Yu dodged just in time. The young miss had been giving him the occasional wink during the journey, which had been getting on her nerves. She ground her teeth behind a smile. If it weren't for preserving appearances, she might have snapped at him already. 50 li passed quickly. In less than an hour, with the Angel Clan guards protecting them, Lin Yu and Qian Renxue stepped into a land of ice and snow. Only then did Lin Yu realize how cold the icebound forest was. He regretted not bringing more layers. Suddenly, a fur coat made from ice bear hide drifted onto his shoulders, neatly landing there. This one's ugly. I don't like it, so I'm giving it to you, Qian Renxue called as she hurried ahead. A faint blush rose on her cheeks. Whether from the cold or from a young girl's emotions, no one could really tell. Unlike the Stardew Great Forest, where conditions improved the deeper one went, the icebound forest only grew harsher within. Fewer creatures survived in its depths. The powerful spirit beasts weren't clustered in one place, but were scattered throughout. The strongest of them were largely nomadic, so the forest's peripheries were the most dangerous. 10,000-year spirit beasts appeared frequently. Without a spirit emperor or a spirit saint leading a hunting party, almost no one dared come here for spirit rings. They advanced without encountering any spirit beasts, perhaps thanks to the vigilance of Serpent Dragon and Si Shui. While no beasts meant no danger, it also meant they had yet to obtain spirit rings. Walking beside Qian Renxue, Lin Yu frowned and spoke softly. Sister Shui, we can't search aimlessly. Let's go check the northern region where the condensing water flying Luon live. All right, lead the way, Qian Renxue said with a gentle smile. They had time. She was not in a rush. Only she could command the Angel Clan squad, so once she agreed, the group immediately made for the northern icebound forest. They did not know that, nearly 100 li away, chaos had erupted within the condensing water-flying Luon clan. The condensing water-flying Luon bore a bloodline descended from the Phoenix clan, a wisp of ice phoenix blood in every member. Though their phoenix blood was thinner than that of true phoenixes, their innate power was undeniable. Over countless years, they had become one of the overlords of the icebound forest. Their clan chief's cultivation base reached 88,000 years. Even against titled Douluo of average strength, the chief could contend. These powerful condensing water flying Luon lived in a vast valley in the forest's north. They led peaceful lives there unless a spirit master came to hunt them. But recently, a supreme treasure that had been nurtured in the clan's secret grounds, a relic that had absorbed the phoenix blood from countless deceased clan members, was stolen before it could mature. The clan chief, who had intended to use the treasure for a bloodline nirvana, flew into a rage. He immediately ordered every condensing water-flying Luon to retrieve the lost treasure at any cost. Chapter 57, Embracing Twin Sisters, Fourth Spirit Ability, Angelic True Flame. At Qian Renxue's soft cry, streams of brilliant white flame infused with divine power erupted. In an instant, the ice and snow within 100 meters melted away. The white fire clung to the longsword condensed from her spirit power and slashed down at the ice spirit snowfox, a 10,000-year beast. Fire met ice, and Qian Renxue's divine flame had already reached ultimate fire. With angelic true flame doubling its force, the snowfox stood no chance. With a miserable cry, it was cut down beneath her blade. Sister is amazing. Lin Yu, nearby, brightened. Having already finished off a 1,000-year snow jade rabbit, he stopped preparing its carcass and praised Qian Renxue. She enjoyed the compliment. With a hint of pride, she lifted her chin and gave a soft, as her reply. Then, pointing at the scorched snow fox, she asked, "Can we eat this?" Lin Yu's mouth twitched. Girls seemed naturally inclined toward food, but Qian Renxue had a particular enthusiasm. He chastised himself silently. It had been his fault for tempting her, who used to be plain, with delicious food. He glanced at the badly burned fox and shook his head. Fox meat doesn't taste good. Besides, the best fur was ruined by your fire. Oh, Qian Renxue's mood dipped. Her bound golden ponytail seemed to lose some of its spring. Then she frowned and asked, "Xiao Yu, don't you think we've been running into too many spirit beasts lately?" Lin Yu froze. He put the processed snow jade rabbit into his storage wristband and said, "You noticed it too? Then it's true. The spirit beasts attacking us seem to be coming from the north. Something's likely happening in the northern icebound forest." As Qian Renxue considered sending Serpent Dragon or Shui to scout north, Xie's expression tensed. "Young lord, there are large spirit power fluctuations ahead, roughly spirit saint level. There's also violent spirit energy. It's highly likely people are fighting a spirit beast. In that case, let's change course and avoid them." For all her feelings, Qian Renxue stayed cool and practical. She decided to steer clear of trouble and led the group toward the northwest, where the trees were more sparse. The forest's northwest edge, with its thinner canopy, housed many spirit beasts, mostly 1,000-year ones, and only a handful at 10,000. It was the safest area of the icebound forest, but it was also one of the few shortcuts out. Unbeknownst to them at first, the group that had stolen treasure from the condensing water-flying Luan family was heading toward that same northwestern edge, chased by the Luan's pursuers. This time the pursuer was not a minor vassal or an underpowered condensing water-flying Luan. It was the clan chief itself, an 88,000-year condensing water-flying Luan, a peak existence among spirit beasts below the 100,000-year level. Its cry boomed across the northwest. Furious at the theft, the condensing water-flying Luan unleashed its control over ice and snow, sending a wall of biting cold racing toward the man and two women who carried the treasure. The leading man's face went ashen. "Damn, it caught up! Schwanger, Honor, I'll hold it off. You two take the item and escape." "No, Vice Dean of Heaven Water Academy. If we go together." The two women stood resolute, unflinching at the danger. Seeing them, two women whose appearances were roughly 70% alike, the Vice Dean's heart tightened. What more could a man ask for than wives like these? Meeting you both in this life was worth everything. "Brother Yu, let's head for the northwest edge now. Maybe once we leave the icebound forest, it won't follow us." The woman named Honor said softly, and her husband agreed. "Honor's right. Forget everything else. Run." Thanks to the forest terrain, the condensing water-flying Luan's assaults had been less effective, which allowed the two spirit saints and one spirit emperor to dash wildly through the trees. But when the trio set their sights on escaping via the northwest edge, the Luan grew even more enraged. It dared not annihilate them entirely. However, it feared damaging the treasure itself. If the item that could help it ascend to a 100,000-year spirit beast, to nirvana and a phoenix, were ruined, it would be ruined in every sense. Half an hour later, Serpent Dragon and Shui's expressions darkened. The pursuing pair were closing in from behind, and the three fugitives were heading straight for their position. The thieves were fast, their cultivation high. Before Serpent Dragon or Shui could call out, the trio were already within 500 meters. In only a breath or two, the man and his two companions, the Vice Dean of Heaven Water Academy and his two wives, saw Qian Renshue's group. The Vice Dean's face paled with guilt. Not wanting to drag others into his mess, he shouted out in a voice laced with spirit saint cultivation, "Get out of the way! A spirit beast is chasing us from behind." The words softened Qian Renshue's murderous glare. She turned to Uncle Shi at her side. "Uncle Shi, please drive it off if you can. If you can't, do what you must." Then, using her spirit bone to hide her identity, Qian Renxue transformed into a plain, unassuming girl beside Lin Yu. "Young Lord Xiao Yu, don't give away our secret later," she whispered. They had already planned for encounters with strangers. Lin Yu and Qian Renxue swapped identities. Lin Yu now posed as the scion of a major spirit hall family. When the vice dean led his two wives before Lin Yu's group and saw Serpent Dragon heading toward the condensing water, flying Luan's position, they stopped in their tracks. Chapter 58, Forced Retreat, Holy Light Yuanchu. Serpent Dragon hadn't broken through to rank 92 long ago, so against a top-tier spirit beast like the condensing water-flying Luan, he could only just hold his own. He didn't have a decisive advantage. The main problem was the flying Luan's frenzied assaults, which made even Serpent Dragon extremely cautious. One hit from it could be fatal. Lin Yu, watching the duel from the northwestern edge of the icebound forest, frowned. What's going on? This condensing water-flying Luan is acting strange. The vice dean of Heaven Water Academy standing nearby opened his mouth, but then thought of his daughter, whose spirit was about to awaken, and changed his words. I'm not sure either. My wife once hunted a 3,000-year-old condensing water-flying Luan when she reached Spirit Saint. It might be related to that one, maybe even its offspring. Lin Yu agreed that such connections did happen, but both he and Qian Renxue felt something was off. It made sense on the surface, yet something important was being overlooked. Even as they watched, the condensing water-flying Luan's ice-blue eyes blazed with hatred. It wanted to kill the Serpent Dragon who stood before it, and Serpent Dragon felt the same. Neither wished to waste time in a protracted fight. At once, the ninth spirit ring on Serpent Dragon's snake lance flared to life. When he unleashed his strongest ninth spirit ability, the condensing water-flying Luan felt an immense threat and dared not be careless. Under its control, ice and snow elements condensed rapidly. An ice-blue glow gathered at the bird's beak. With a furious roar, Serpent Dragon charged, spear leveled. The condensing water-flying Luan fired back. An ice-blue beam, as thick as a water vat, cut a deep blue trail through the air and froze the surrounding atmosphere. The two mighty attacks collided, making most spirit beasts in the icebound forest tremble. Neither creature was one these lesser beasts could afford to provoke. A few overlords of comparable standing to the condensing water-flying Luan watched with calculating eyes, already thinking about whether they could use this moment to stab the clan in the back and snatch territory. Resources in the icebound forest were scarce. The condensing water-flying Luan's absence would be a windfall. When the spirit power aftershocks died down, Serpent Dragon was a disheveled sight, his body coated with a layer of ice shards. He dispelled them, feeling speechless. The condensing water-flying Luan, after a fight to the brink of mutual destruction, had fled. As a spirit beast with Phoenix bloodline, it had excellent speed. A titled duo like Serpent Dragon, who wasn't specialized in speed, couldn't catch it. Darn it! I was going to keep it. What a pity! Serpent Dragon raged inwardly. A condensing water-flying Luan of nearly 90,000 years had a good chance of dropping a top-grade spirit bone. After half a lifetime of struggle, Serpent Dragon had watched such a prize fly away. Don't worry, Uncle Shi. I'll get you an even better one someday, Lin Yu said quickly, stepping forward. He and Serpent Dragon staged a scene of exaggerated master-servant affection that left Qian Renxue standing by half amused, half incredulous. Was she still the young lord of Spirit Hall? The vice dean of Heaven Water Academy approached respectfully. Young master, your excellency, my wives and I were in danger. Thank you for saving us. No problem, Lin Yu replied calmly. If you hadn't called out, I wouldn't have asked Uncle Shi to help. It would have taken a bit more effort, that's all. The vice dean's heart raced. I have implicated others as well. It's our fault for causing a fuss. By the way, our Heaven Water Academy will soon host the 5 Elemental Academies exchange. I hope young master will honor us with your presence. Lin Yu, surprised by the invitation, agreed after a glance from a certain blonde. The vice dean thanked him once more and hurried away with his 2 wives. When the 3 departed, Qian Renxue returned to her usual self, a playful half-smile on her pretty face. Well, how does it feel to have Spirit Emperor and Spirit Saint level figures defer to you, Xiao Wu? Lin Yu shook his head. Sister, stop teasing. Let's find a spirit beast. Seeing his slight embarrassment, Qian Renxue let it drop. The group moved toward the northern icebound forest, the condensing water-flying Luan clan's territory. Before they reached the northern region, a golden figure suddenly blocked their path. At first, the cry it gave sounded a little like the condensing water flying Luan, but when Lin Yu saw it clearly, he was stunned. Golden feathers covered its whole body, sharp talons like an eagle's, a phoenix-like tail, yet its head looked somewhat parrot-like. Even Serpent Dragon and Xiao didn't recognize it. Each looked awkward. They all turned to the only scholar among them, Qian Renxue. "This seems like a Yuanchu," she said after studying it. "Its bloodline doesn't look very pure, and its attribute is light. Could it be the holy light Yuanchu Grandpa mentioned he met when he was young?" As a scholar, Qian Renxue was genuinely puzzled. Unable to identify the bird, she sighed and gave an order. "Uncle catch it. If it's under 20,000 years old, it'll be my spirit ring." Serpent Dragon obeyed without question. The pressure of a tidal Douluo crushed down on the golden bird. Trapped and facing death, the spirit beast's counterattack was startling. Its tail feathers snapped forward like arrows, aimed at Qian Renxue and Lin Yu. Caught off guard, Serpent Dragon could only roar, "You beast! Die!" Chapter 59, An Evolving Spirit. At the critical moment, usually quiet, Xiao moved swiftly. He put his spirit-attached body directly between Lin Yu and Qian Renxue. The feathered arrows struck his pufferfish-like form and only dented it slightly before bouncing off harmlessly. Serpent Dragon exhaled softly, a rare warmth tugging at him. At crucial moments, his old friends were truly reliable. His gaze hardened on the cunning, treacherous, strange bird that still squawked on the ground. With a snarl, Serpent Dragon drove the snake lance in his hand down with more force. The bird screamed and collapsed. Even so, Serpent Dragon was an elder. He kept his composure, careful not to ignore Qian Renshue's orders. He probed the bird's spirit power fluctuations and estimated its cultivation. It was past 10,000 years, but well short of 20,000, roughly between 17 and 19,000 years. Converted to the human cultivation scale, that put it at a high-rank spirit king. In a true fight, a spirit emperor might not be able to contend with it. After tossing the dying bird aside, Serpent Dragon relayed its condition in detail. Qian Renshue's slender brows drew together for a moment, then determination sparkled in her eyes. "This is perfect. Its attributes match well, its combat power is strong, and it even carries a phoenix bloodline. I should be able to gain a valuable spirit ability from it." Both Serpent Dragon and Xiao nodded. Qian Renxue casually condensed a small light sword and struck the strange bird's head. A black spirit ring detached and hovered. She was about to sit down on the snow when Lin Yu happened to take a white bear fur blanket from his pack and lay it down. Qian Renxue smiled and sat, drawing the spirit ring close and beginning to absorb it in silence. Serpent Dragon and Xiao exchanged glances that clearly said if they weren't concerned about disturbing her, they'd deal with Lin Yu on the spot. Serpent Dragon shook his head, half amused and half exasperated. "We invited a wolf into the house," he muttered, regretting the day he'd allowed Lin Yu to remain in Heaven Do City. If Lin Yu had joined Spirit Hall, he wouldn't have stolen their young lord away. He said it openly in front of Lin Yu. Lin Yu only smiled inwardly, mentally bookmarking Serpent Dragon for future favors. "I'll make sure you get a good job someday," he thought. Qian Renshue's breakthrough had partly been prepared by a sublimated, immortal-grade coxcomb phoenix sunflower. That bloom had significantly strengthened her, supplementing pure yang qi, elevating her sacred phoenix flame to its peak, and, crucially, removing the bottlenecks that would otherwise have slowed her progress toward titled Douluo. Now, with the new spirit ring, she finished absorbing the spirit power in less than an hour. When she opened her eyes, there was a bright, pleased light in them. "Congratulations, sister, on your 5th spirit ring," Lin Yu said. Qian Renshue's lips curved. "I owe it all to you, Xiao Wu. I've broken through to rank 54 Spirit King, 3 ranks higher than a standard breakthrough. It saved me nearly a year of cultivation. I don't know how to repay you." She meant it. Lin Yu had used his 2nd spirit to assist her cultivation, and the wood spirit scroll had sublimated the coxcomb phoenix sunflower in a way that bolstered her foundation and cleared the obstacles she would have met on the path to titled Douluo. Without those bottlenecks, once her spirit power accumulated, her rank advancement would accelerate dramatically. Qian Renshue's gratitude made Lin Yu's chest warm. Part of him wanted to blurt out, "No need, young lord sister, marry me." But with Serpent Dragon and Xishui nearby, he swallowed the impulse and kept his reply light. "It's nothing. Helping my sister is only natural." Qian Renshue's earlobes flushed the faintest rose. She hummed, and after a small pause, as if collecting herself, said, "Right, let's hurry and find the condensing water-flying Luan you need." Lin Yu noticed. He'd been tempered by complicated relationships in his past life and had learned to read subtle shifts. He said nothing more and followed her cheerfully, eager to find a condensing water-flying Luan suitable for him. The northern icebound forest was the condensing water-flying Luan clan's territory, and within half an hour they'd encountered several of them. Some were too low-ranked, others too high. After pressing deeper, they finally found one that was close to breaking the 10,000-year mark, but had not yet crossed it. Serpent Dragon held no grudge about hunting for Lin Yu's spirit ring. He wounded that condensing water-flying Luan and tossed it at Lin Yu. Lin Yu, wielding autumn ink, the finely honed blade made by divine craftsman Lu Gao, moved to finish it. Qian Renshue's jade-like hand caught his sleeve, concern shining in her moist, expressive eyes. "Xiao Yu, don't push yourself too hard. If it's too much, we can find a lower-ranked one." "I know," Lin Yu said, "but to protect you and keep up with you, I have to try." His resolute tone, still so boyish, warmed Qian Renxue like a first fluttering crush. She let him go. Autumn ink was sharp. Lin Yu sliced the condensing water-flying Luan's throat in one clean motion. The approaching 10,000-year creature fell and released a purplish-black spirit ring. Lin Yu drew it to himself. As expected of a spirit close to 10,000 years old, it had pressured him. Thankfully, it hadn't crossed the 10,000-year threshold, so there were no soul tremors to interfere. The absorption was difficult, but safe. 2 hours later, a cyan-blue bird-like image manifested behind Lin Yu, the giant winged emerald demon bird, his spirit. With the integration of the third spirit ring, the emerald demon bird had changed. Its red eyes were sharper. Roughly a fifth of its tail feathers had turned an ice-blue color. Qian Renxue watched the transformation with sparkling eyes. "Is that spirit evolution?" Spirit evolution occurs when a spirit's inherent quality reaches a certain threshold, triggering a qualitative change, an internal sublimation and alteration. It isn't an instant process. A single spirit ring cannot force a spirit to evolve on its own. Those who insist that absorbing a spirit ring alone evolves a spirit should think carefully. If spirits were that easy to change, Tang Chen would not have been so completely outmatched by Shui Binger. Chapter 60. Incomplete Evolution. Encountering Feng Xiaoqin again. Ice Bloom Lure. When Lin Yu called out softly, a phoenix-shaped ice-blue sigil materialized at once on both Serpent Dragon and Xishui. For a moment it looked as if the two had been frozen solid. An instant-cast, area-effect spirit skill was impressive, yet how could a mere spirit elder hope to control a titled Douluo? The two shook themselves lightly, and the ice fell away. Serpent Dragon's face remained composed as he commented, "Not bad. Passable." "Good." Shisei's curt evaluation was ignored by Lin Yu and Qian Renxue. Qian Renxue, smiling with satisfaction, turned to Lin Yu. "Xiao Yu, your luck is good. Not only did your spirit evolve, it also learned an area effect ability. I won't pry into everything right now, but tell me, how's your cultivation?" "Ice Bloom Lure might be tied to mental force," Lin Yu said. "The stronger the mental force, the more opponents it can affect. My spirit power seems to have gone up by about 2 levels. I'm currently a level 33 spirit elder. As for saying my spirit evolved, that's not entirely accurate." There was a pause as he considered the words, then he continued, "Actually, my emerald demon bird spirit is at most in a semi-evolved state right now, more like it's still evolving. To finish, I probably need to absorb more spirit rings, maybe 2 more at most. By the time I reach Spirit King, the evolution should be complete." Qian Renxue brightened at that. The stronger Lin Yu became, the more she rejoiced. She reverted, for a moment, to the role of concerned elder sister. Her golden phoenix eyes regarded him intently. "This is already very good. The emerald demon bird is a top-tier spirit beast even now. If it fully evolves, it will be a tremendous advantage." "Understood, eldest Miss Qian," Lin Yu answered obediently. "We've only been out less than 20 days, and there's over a month left. So, are we going back the way we came, or are we really going to explore Tianshui City? Qian Renxue rolled her eyes. When did you start calling me yours? And going to Tianshui City was your idea. If you don't show up, you'll answer to me. Lin Yu had no retort. He'd gotten himself into this, and arguing with Qian Renxue wasn't worth it. 2 easygoing days later, Lin Yu and the disguised Qian Rui arrived in Tianshui City. The name matched the Heaven Water Academies. No coincidence. This large city, lying near the far north, had grown up around the academy over generations and now counted over 200,000 residents. It was effectively the academy's domain, not part of the Heaven Do Empire's direct control. The academy's dean typically served as the city lord. The empire simply had no practical way to enforce authority here. Add in the other 4 major academies and a duchy, and the situation only grew more complicated. The 5 elemental academies' exchange competition was largely an affair among themselves. Outsiders like Lin Yu, who joined midway, were rare. They strolled the streets together, bought supplies, and avoided the Shui family home, where the Heaven Water Academy's vice dean's in-laws lived, for reasons neither openly explained. Tianshui City felt colder than even the icebound forest. Back at their temporary inn, Qian Renxue, sensitive to the cold, burrowed completely under the quilt, only her head exposed, and chatted idly with Lin Yu. Lin Yu soon noticed she kept clutching her stomach, her brows creasing, and her complexion a touch pale. He understood immediately. After a while, he left her room for about 15 minutes, then returned carrying a small vessel. He sat by her bed and fed her ginger-brown sugar water like a fussing nurse. Seeing the proud, haughty blonde reduced to such a state made the corner of his mouth twitch in amusement. "Humph, naughty little brother, I'll settle this with you later," she sniffed, though she drank the remedy obediently. After a few sips, Qian Renxue relaxed and grew sleepy. Lin Yu tucked her in and went to leave. In the dim corridor just outside her door, he ran into someone familiar. White hair, tall frame, a black half-mask. Feng Xiaoqian stood there, equally surprised. Their eyes met and both registered recognition immediately. Neither greeted the other. They merely passed like strangers. Lin Yu was not surprised to see Feng Xiaoqian here. It was the 5 Elemental Academy's exchange competition. Of course he would come. Feng Xiaoqian's attendants, who knew him well, crowded around him, and one nudged, curious. "Brother Tian, you looked like you recognized that red-eyed kid back there. Do you know him?" Feng Xiaoqian didn't spare them a glance. He spoke with an austere chill. "What are you thinking? Focus on the competition. Fail to perform and you'll answer for it." Though not about cultivation, Feng Xiaoqian commanded strict authority as a captain. He dismissed his followers, returned to his room, and shut the door. Obeying an old instruction from his grandfather, he took out paper and carefully wrote down Lin Yu's appearance and where he'd been seen in Tianshui City. A small hawk, kept like a pet, fluttered to his hand. Feng Xiaoqian fastened the note to the hawk, opened the window, and released it into the night. As the hawk vanished into the sky, a smile creased Feng Xiaoqian's face. "Heh! My family nearly gave up, but then I run into you. Young Master Feng will enjoy this dog-eat-dog game." Feng Xiaoqian felt his plan perfect, but he could not know that even the best-laid schemes pale against overwhelming strength. The climax approaches. Let's see what Sister Shui has up her sleeve. Note, from the Classic of Mountains and Seas, Classic of the Seas Within, in the North Sea there is Serpent Mountain. Serpent water flows from it into the Eastern Sea. There is a 5-colored bird that flies over a village called Yi Bird. The protagonist's spirit's first evolutionary form is intentionally not overly powerful. No need to make things too formidable or invite scorn.